and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
So, with the 29th pick in the 2022 Pay the Noise NFL Mock Draft, James Anderson, the Kansas City Chiefs select who? James Anderson joining us right now on Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. James, let's talk running backs.
Yeah, excellent stuff. James, we're up against it. We appreciate the time, my man. Fantastic insight and information. We're looking forward to talking to you down the road. Enjoy the draft.
Absolutely, man. You guys too, anytime.
All right, there he goes. James Anderson, host of the Zone Midday Sports Radio 810 in KC.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Yes, it's Zone with James Anderson, Jerry Brisco, and Brett McFly.
I could be a Jerry.
Jerry Brisco. No, it's the Zone. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, and Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you the next 4 hours. Boy, a jam-packed show today. So we're going to try to get all of it into 4 hours. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but we're certainly going to try.
What if you and I tried talking fast today?
I don't think
this is a change of pace. I think something we could do. Maybe we talk over each other and talk really fast.
If we talk fast and talk over each other, it's not going to really work because people won't really understand what we're saying. Plus, they will probably
that's a great point,
not even
Jason.
want to listen to the show at all. And we're done. We got it all in, guys.
Program
hey.
next.
Seren, take it away.
Beards, pads, and breaks.
You know, I'd like to have a shortened show every once in a while.
God, it would be so nice to get one of those like this week, maybe.
One time have hey, KU plays at this time, so you don't have as long of a show as you typically have. But no, that's always saved for the program. What's that?
Oh, looks like tomorrow.
How about that?
Okay, tomorrow's going to be a shorter show.
Well, thank you for being the 1 seed, KU, and I'm going to keep talking like this because I'm proud of you. No, the KU pregame right here on the on Sports Radio 10.
Effort, you got really great grades. I just want you to know I'm such a proud papa.
Why am I talking like Jerry Seinfeld?
I'm your dad, Jerry Seinfeld.
The KU pregame starts tomorrow at 12:30, so we will be at Rally House downtown with Fan Fest going on, and it is getting underway. The madness is beginning. It's been going on.
This is March.
And that's right. It's 8 days. It's been March for 8 days. Can you believe that? 8 days of March. And there's been a lot of football we've been discussing yesterday with the franchise tag deadline. A lot of talk around that. College basketball and conference tournaments continue to roll on. I am not happy with Gonzaga and Oral Roberts last night. Typically, I'm perfectly fine with Oral, even if it's Roberts, but Gonzaga last night did not give us a great matchup. I was looking forward to Gonzaga St. Mary's. I was looking forward to Oral Roberts, and I was looking forward to that matchup against North Dakota State. And they both go out there and they just dominate like, oh, we're really good. We're really good. I don't care about the fact that the kids are asleep now and you get to sit down and watch TV and you've been looking forward to that 8 o'clock window with some basketball and it's going to be really entertaining. Son of a gun! No, it's not really entertaining.
Sounds like North Dakota State blew it.
And they're headed home. On the road. North Dakota State. And you know what? A couple of years ago, Oral Roberts made that run to the Sweet 16, and we get familiar again. We get familiar again with Max Asmus. Do you guys know how to spell Max? There is no sports or leisure tomorrow because of the
M-A-X.
That's what I was going to start with. I'm afraid it's M-A-C-K-S, though, now.
I meant Asmus.
A. So far, so good?
You've got it right.
That's all I know.
You're just fine with the A. What about now? Asmus.
S.
Sorry, that's wrong.
Darn.
Yep. You spell Max Asmus, M-A-X, A-B-M-A-S. A-B-M-A-S. Explain that one. I can understand silent letters. I can understand letters that are just silent. Maybe even the little squiggly line above it. Maybe even rolling your R's. Arr. Maybe you do that. But pronouncing a B as an S, nope, can't do it.
Oh,
not going to do it. Max Asmus.
My misunderstanding.
A-B-M-A-S.
I'm a big Max Abmas fan.
Love Abmas.
You know who else I love? Kofi, what's his name? Isn't it big in the
Cofield?
tournament? No. His first name's Kofi. His last name is...
Oh, yeah, Coburn.
I don't think that's it.
No, I'm pretty sure it's spelled exactly like Coburn. Coburn.
That's how it's spelled.
I pronounce it exactly like that. Now, that's a silent C and a silent K. This is changing a B to an S.
That's
different.
Fair. No, that is fair. I think we've got, look, you know who's brave about this? He's not saying it's pronounced Grady D. Like, sometimes you just gotta, it's a silent CK. Hi, I'm Grady Dye. What?
There's two of you? My goodness.
Could have called him Prince Dye, the whole thing.
right.
That could have been good.
Could have been great.
No, he's Grady Dick. He knows his name.
That's right. Everybody else does now. Oral Roberts wins last night by like 40. Gonzaga takes care of St. Mary's early on. The NKU and Cleveland State game was entertaining for a little bit, but then the last couple of minutes, NKU starts, pulling away, and they're up by like 7 or 8 with a minute to go, and Cleveland State's, coming back, and they made it a 2-point game, but they were down 5. They hit a 3 with 0.2 on the clock. That isn't really a buzzer beater. You lost by 2. Oh, the drama that was there. So NKU heading back to the tournament, and Dennis Gates' previous stop at Cleveland State does not make the NCAA tournament. But we've got 4 more tonight. We got 4 more bids going out tonight in the one bid leagues that are there. So, 3. Got the Southland tonight, 4 o'clock, Patriot at 6:30, and the Big Sky at 10:30. So we got some more drama with championships on the line. And after these 3 tonight, there won't be another automatic qualifying bid tournament champion until the 11th, till Saturday. So if you want some championship win and you're in, lose and your season is over, 4, 6:30, and 10:30 tonight, along with the other conference tournaments that are going on, with the Big 12 going on tonight downtown at the T-Mobile Center. And look, championship week, we've got it covered for you right here. Big 12 tournament. Our live coverage is brought to you by Barstool Sportsbook, Inside Hollywood Casino, Greenlight Dispensary, Jay Rieger and Company, CBD American Shaman, and Miller Lite. We will have the Fan Fest going on, where I believe you will be hearing and seeing the beautiful face and voice of one Josh Brisco on stage this week/weekend. And I got to tell you, I am very excited for the people out there. Not excited for you or me or anybody else, but the people that get to experience Josh Brisco on stage.
Yeah.
That's just going to be a delight.
Stage and screen and all of those things, but there's something special about being on a stage with a microphone in your hand in front of thousands of people who would love nothing more than for you to stop talking.
Well, they're getting excited. You're getting them pumped up for the game.
I'm here to be a hype man. I also saw our friends at Charlie Hustle today on their Instagram. I guess yesterday on the Instagram story. I saw it this morning. That is, in fact, a T-shirt cannon.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about it yesterday.
Uh-huh.
If I don't get T-shirt cannon privileges, I might just not show up. I might just be gone.
What's the point of being on stage and not having a T-shirt cannon while you're up there?
That's the thing. I don't know.
Also, have you gone through like a training camp or a quick little like a cram session of working out with Nate Bukaty about what to do while on stage? Because he is the veteran.
Yes.
He does it all the time. So you go through like a quick little boot camp.
Yeah.
Like a 2 or 3 day boot camp with Nate Bukaty, where you're doing push-ups, you're running, you're getting your road work in, like you're training for a fight, you're holding the microphone for a long time. It's like the 12-ounce curls with people, but it's a microphone.
Ooh, I like that.
You are talking and talking and talking and strengthening the vocal cords. You're out there waving a flag, so you got to get.
Is what I'm concerned about.
You got to get your deltoids going.
I don't have those guns.
Yep, you got to get the shoulders. You got to get the traps, the lats, the biceps, the triceps. You got to get all those ready to go. You got to get them firing, triggering those while you're out there.
You got to fire your glutes. Your glutes have to be
exactly
firing.
Right. You got to get that arm ready to throw, because you're going to be throwing stuff into the crowd. You don't want to wake up the next day. See, Nate is walking around right now.
Nate here right now?
I don't know if he's going to give you that boot camp of what it's going to be like. Hey, Beards, can you open up the door and sell? Nope, Nate just went into a room. He's recording something. Never mind.
Yeah, that seems like it seems like he had something to do that's like
He
serious.
heard
That's a
his
recording
name
studio.
and he was like, "Let me close the door and hide in here." That's what typically. That's what I do when the boss comes around. Ooh, let me close the door and hide.
I'm a little worried about Tommy John for sure.
Yep.
That's why I'm hoping the T-shirt cannon can take some of that off my shoulders. I definitely need to get kind of the If he can be my Chad Henne, whatever, I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure kind of how that's going to work. I do see myself as the Patrick Mahomes of being on stage. I mean, that's just pretty obvious.
You know what you could do? You could toss the ball to Dylan. Or toss the shirts to Dylan.
Oh, that's
Dylan
great.
can throw them. So you'd be like a quarterback, but you're the wide receiver to his quarterback, and you don't hurt your arm.
And the truth is, I'm Shane Buechele, is what's actually happening here, because I actually think I'm stepping in for Nate a couple of times.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm going to need what I really need from Nate is to know how to be a good teammate to Steven. That's what I need to know. Because he's got years of experience there. I will note, I did spend at least one, maybe two separate occasions as the Chick-fil-A cow. At least two separate occasions, actually. So I have some sort of, physical mascot experience. I'm hoping they put me in some sort of costume where I can do the little, like, hip thrust kind of KC Wolf pelvic thrust kind of thing. That's a real crowd pleaser. But if I don't have a costume, I will be pelvic thrusting regardless.
Will you have a sign that's misspelled of different words? Like,
Yes.
Like Max Asmus spelled ABMAS?
Yes.
Like, that's funny. He's got a
Let's say
misspelled
he spelled
sign
it
up there.
wrong.
He's got a misspelled sign up there. Also, what we've got going on.
Watch more basketball.
That's right. We are, look, the madness is going on, March Madness. Also, the Sports Radio 810 Bracket Challenge is up and live and ready to go, and you can register for that. Get registered right now. Go to 810WHB.com, click on the Bracket Challenge icon, and get signed up right now. Then when the bracket is released, boom, go back in, pick your teams, but go ahead and take care of the signing up for that right now. And then all you got to do is just go and click and then fill out your teams. You don't have to go and re-sign up because you did it today before all of the madness, and you're trying to sign up for all these different office pools and friends, and you've got different websites you're going to go to try to win the $1 million for the perfect bracket, which is going to be ruined roughly 2 o'clock on Thursday. Unless they make you pick the play-in games, then roughly 8 o'clock on Tuesday, your bracket will be ruined. But look, we'll have incredible prizes. Autographed Chiefs and Sporting KC memorabilia, flat screen TV, restaurant, gift cards, and more. Simple to register and fill out your own bracket. You can also form a bracket challenge with friends or within the office. You can have your bracket challenge pool at Sports Radio 810 with the bracket challenge. You can create your own group within that. So, and also you can compete within your group, but you're still competing with the others in the 810 Bracket Challenge to win the cool prizes. So 2 different ways to win with your group, hosting your Bracket Challenge at 810, and then also you can win the 810 prizes as well. It's brought to you by Twin Peaks, Robert Brogdon Buick GMC, and Olathe Kia, Smoke and Fire, and Hy-Vee. That is the Bracket Challenge going on. So we've got Big 12, we've got Fan Fest, we've got Bracket Challenge, we've got March Madness. We got it all for you right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. What we have today lined up for you is coming up at 11 o'clock. We've got Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. He does a great job covering the salary cap, and we will talk with him about college basketball, oddly enough. We're very excited about his take on the bracket. But no, Orlando Brown is not franchise tagged. We know that now. What does that mean? What does that do for the market, for the offensive line? What do the Chiefs do? What can they do? Also looking at the fact that Lamar Jackson was franchise tagged, and then the odd reaction from teams that we thought were in the mix for Lamar Jackson immediately reaching out to their media members, national media members, to say, we're not interested. The Ravens have placed the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson. I'm being told the Falcons are no longer pursuing Lamar Jackson.
Actually, I was told that directly by the Falcons when they retweeted it.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm being told the Panthers are no longer interested. I'm being told that insert team here is no longer interested. Teams that were interested in trading for Deshaun Watson immediately came out when the non-exclusive franchise tag was placed on Lamar Jackson, knowing it's going to be 2 first-round draft picks, and then whatever he's asking for, it was, now we're good. We were interested, but not anymore for some reason. So we'll talk with Brad Spielberger about the collusion, or at least about why teams aren't interested in Lamar Jackson. I misspoke there. Sorry. I coughed. Collusion.
Can't spell collusion without Lamar. You mostly can. Just to make sure everybody knows, by the way, what Beards just said wasn't a joke. That was a thing that happened.
Yeah, right.
The Falcons, digital media reporter tweeted out reports Falcons will not pursue Ravens QB Lamar Jackson on AtlantaFalcons.com, and then the Falcons retweeted that story. What is going on?
I can tell you what's
I can't too.
I can tell you what's going on. The Ravens are saying we will not be the ones to give him a guaranteed deal to help set precedent of fully guaranteed contracts. If the Falcons want to or another team wants to, that's great. And then they were saying we're not going to. So now the Ravens are saying, look, Lamar, go see what your market value is out there. Nobody's going to give you a fully guaranteed deal.
Yep.
So neither are we. But you can play this year for $39 million.
It is a bizarre situation that we'll have.
So we'll talk with Brad Spielberger about that. I'll get his name right before. James Spielberger.
Brad Spielberger. Are you sure it's not pronounced any other way?
Steven Spielberg.
I bet he's never gotten that one before.
Brad
you can call him
Spielberger.
Steven Spielberger.
Yeah, Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus. Coming up at noon, John Gasaway from ESPN, college basketball. He's got his, he releases as conference tournament championship week goes on. He puts out an eliminator of like numbers and teams and makeup and efficiency margin and defense and KenPom and everything, kind of like I did for the playoffs with the NFL, and it's like an eliminator. He does that every year for the NCAA tournament and teams that are, eligible or going to make it. And he comes up with roughly 8 teams, the 8 teams that can win the national championship. And he's got his 8 teams this year that can win the national championship. Shocked that Missouri's on it, but KU is not. That's not true. That is not true. The 8 teams are, in no particular order, Alabama, UConn, Houston, Kansas, Marquette. Actually, I guess it's alphabetical order. Alabama, Con, not the U, Connecticut, Houston, Kansas, Marquette, Purdue, Tennessee, and UCLA. Which is interesting because Marquette's a name that people haven't been talking about. UCLA may have lost Jalen Clark for the year. As we talked with Myron Metcalf yesterday, the purposely vague Mick Cronin on the, quote, lower leg injury for Jalen Clark that people have speculated looked like it was an Achilles, but let's all hope it's not because they did an MRI, but there hasn't been any news released. And let me tell you, if it wasn't bad, I think we'd have news of Jalen Clark's going to return. He did not make the trip for the Pac-12 tournament, so he is not playing in that, but it's just called a lower leg injury. I think he's being purposely vague because the selection committee will then downgrade if they know Jalen Clark will not play, with the prospect of maybe Jalen Clark will return. Maybe they don't drop him a seed or something. Maybe they can still go and earn a 1 seed there at the Pac-12 championship. But he still has UCLA, and I'm going to ask John Gasaway, like, okay, UCLA, what if there's no Jalen Clark? Then what? Does that change the formula there? Does he go back and edit it? We know Zakai Ziegler is out for the year for Tennessee, and he's one of the best defensive players in the conference, and that is a team that is built on how they defend. If they make shots, they're really hard to beat because Rick Barnes and his teams are going to defend, and Ziegler's a big part of that. But still has Tennessee there. Interesting. But Kansas is there. Alabama, UConn, Houston. And I bring that up just because, one, we know Kansas is going to be a 1 seed. But also, we look at other teams around the country and we compare them and say, look, this is somebody that looks at it and says, yes, compared to the rest of the season or the country and the teams, Kansas is a national championship-worthy team. He has 25 teams that were near misses that did not make his formula of 8. And he's got them ranked in how close they were of near misses. Kansas State is 10th of that group. Okay. And Missouri is 16th of that group. So Missouri still made the 25 teams that were near misses.
That's pretty incredible, again, in the larger local landscape conversation we've been having.
His quick little write-up, I'll do the quick little write-up on K-State and Missouri because he doesn't do a quick little write-up on Kansas because he just lists them as one of the teams that can win a national title.
Right.
There you go. Here's why these 2 teams were near misses.
Yeah.
Missouri, Dennis Gates has been a wonder in year 1 at Missouri, and the year-to-year progression of Kobe Brown and Cleveland State transfer to Moy Hodge has been no less wondrous. Opponents do, however, tend to make their 2s against this defense.
What a generous way of saying that.
Kansas State. If last November you envisioned that an explanation would be needed by March for why Kansas State may not win the national title, take one proud step forward. Jerome Tang has ushered in a new era in Manhattan, and in year 1, the vibe included 30% three-point shooting by Big 12 opponents. Will this continue to be the case in the field of 68? Actually, it could, in which case the near-miss label could well be misapplied. As Coach Tang says, what's next? And I'm guessing that the whole, teams are shooting 30% from three-point land against K-State. I'm assuming that's a near miss because most analysts that like the analytics don't believe in three-point percentage defense. It's more of a fluctuation. My view is the best three-point defense is to not let him shoot one. That's the best way you can usually dictate whether a team is going to make threes or not, is just to not let them shoot. Because Division I players are so freaking skilled that if they start getting hot, you can have a hand in their face. They could be fading away and knock down threes. Was that bad defense? No, it's just there's really skilled basketball players. I'm assuming that's why K-State missed, is he isn't a full believer that teams will keep missing from three the way they have over the course of the entire season. Teams have made threes, missed threes, but as it's eventually shaken out, it's a 30% from three. But as he said, if that's the case, if teams are not making shots from behind the arc, which is a huge equalizer in the tournament, I'm going to speak for myself and use a parentheses here. When you've got two scorers that can fill it up and you've got three other guys that can score in double digits any given night, you can make a run. And if teams aren't making shots from three, you can make a run. So we'll see what happens with that. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. Because we're going to talk football and basketball, I want to talk some baseball with the Royals back in action today. And Lorenzo Cain is retiring a Royal. I want to talk about that and why they should sign him to actually play center field for the Royals.
Hey, I'm just saying. You can retire as a Royal
yes.
at the end of the year.
By playing center field, Lorenzo.
Hello?
I think Cain is able to do that. We'll talk about that. There's some stats out there for MJ Melendez that are, oh, my God. That are, oh, wow.
Jason, let me stop you. Oh, sorry, I couldn't.
There's a way to frame this, but not if Melendez is doing it. And Vinny P's offensive numbers rank with some of the best in baseball. Also, Singer, Bubich, Keller, new pitches, driveline, shaping, slider, sweeper. All of that coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Talked a lot of Royals today.
Sorry.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk some football with Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus coming up at 11 o'clock, and then John Gasaway, some college basketball from ESPN coming up at noon. We mentioned that Lorenzo Cain retiring will officially retire a Royal, some sort of ceremony that will take place, and one of my favorite Royals of all time will officially be hanging it up. He's already, essentially retired, but now wanting to retire as a Royal. And I just want to play a few little clips that bring back the feels of Lorenzo Cain. Let's play Dan Schulman's radio call first. Speaking of which, in Lorenzo, of course, scoring from first on the Hosmer single. That's right. As we know, maybe the loudest Kaufman has ever been is Cain. To hell with your stop sign at third. And not even that being the case. But to hell with stopping at third. I'm scoring. Here's the Cain scoring from first. Dan Schulman on the radio call.
And the 2-2 and a swing and a ball hit to right field. Bautista to his left. It's going to drop. He'll play it on a bounce. Around to third, Cain. Getting the wave home. Throw to the plate. Not in time. The throw went into second. And Cain just kept going around third. And the Royals have the lead.
I mean, it was unbelievable. We've talked about, and probably has been discussed a lot about the homework that was done about down there in that spot on singles in that area. They throw to second almost every time. It is what they do. And because of that, boom, Cain, you're running. Here's the TV call by Joe Buck in Lorenzo Cain scoring from first.
That's into right field. This ball is gone. Going to third is Cain. Holding at first. Now Cain coming to the plate. Royals lead. He can fly.
They win 4-3 based on that run being the fourth run. And I love the in there. He can fly! That pivotal game 6 in the ALCS and tied 3-3. Hosmer had to come through, right? Cain had to come through to be on first. Hosmer had to come through. But just, you're not supposed to score from first on that play. And they throw into second. And Joe Buck wasn't even watching Lorenzo Cain, because who would have been watching Lorenzo Cain? Play that one again. I know it's hard to hear because the crowd is so loud, which goes along with the ambiance and the Nat sound that's there and what was happening at Kauffman Stadium. And by the way, what was happening all over the world where Royals fans were, like in my basement, an 8.5-hour drive away, what was going on in our house at that time when he's somehow rounding third. But let's hear Joe Buck, because Joe Buck says Hosmer stopping at first. There's the end of the play. What?
That's into right field. This ball is gone. Going to third is Cain. Holding at first. Now Cain coming to the plate. Royals lead. He can fly.
He can fly. And that was when, like, that run, scoring, the Royals were going to the World Series because they just didn't lose when they had the lead. Hell, after 6 innings, 7 innings, 8 innings. You take a 4-3 lead. You got the cyborg coming out to the mound to close it out in the 9th, and they go on to the World Series. And then the next game they play, you got the heroics of Alex Gordon in the bottom of the 9th against Uris Familia. God, that run was amazing. And Lorenzo Cain was, and people will have different opinions, I believe Lorenzo Cain was the best player on that team. When you talk about all-around play, what he did offensively, what he could do on the base paths, and the way he played center field was just unbelievable. And, of course, capping it off in Game 5 in the World Series, just blowing the game open. And then, so Cain scores from first. They're going to the World Series because they're not going to blow that lead. Cain's 3-run double in extras was, it's over. They're winning the World Series. Here's that call.
Here's the 0-1. That's a shot into the gap in left center. Everybody takes off. 1 run scores. Here comes Escobar, and now Zobrist. Kane is emptied up. And the Royals have blown it open in the 12th. 7-2.
I mean, they were already up a couple of runs. They weren't going to lose being up a couple of runs, as we know, right? But that was it. The crack of the bat, too.
It could not have been pure. That's as good as it gets.
So good. And Zobrist scoring, everybody on the move. I don't know why, but people like Joe Buck's calls in 2015.
I'm so glad you
Not
said
as
that.
much as 2014,
I didn't want to interrupt because this is
sorry.
about Lorenzo Cain.
I know.
But this is a good time for people to recalibrate their feelings on Joe Buck because you just heard 2 great classic calls of incredible Royals moments, and it wasn't Joe Buck going, ah, crap, that's a hit into the gap. The Royals are going to, damn it, the Royals are going to win this thing.
God, I want the Mets to. Can the Mets bring out Bumgarner?
Where's Madison Bumgarner when you need him? I'm Joe Buck.
Oh, my gosh. Can I give Bumgarner 2015 World Series MVP?
Joe Buck
Not
is good at his
Salvi?
job, everybody. I hate to admit it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's true, unfortunately.
So this brings up a question as it relates to the local team. Because as I joke about, can Lorenzo Cain, can he sign the one-day contract, but also can he just sign the contract to play center field? I know they like Kyle Isbell, and look, Isbell, by all indications, is a good center fielder. He doesn't have the speed, but apparently he's got the jump, he's got the instincts, he can read the baseball, and his routes are beautiful. That he's not, wasting steps. And by the way, if you're not a flyer in center field at Kauffman, you'd better not waste steps. You'd better be able to get there, okay? But they signed Jackie Bradley Jr., who is a former Gold Glove winner, who, if nothing else, can play center field. They have Michael Garcia play center field. And a couple things come to mind with that. I wonder if it's an indication of Drew Waters, or if they're just simply saying we need somebody to play center field if Isbell needs a day off, or if Isbell gets injured. Can Garcia do it? Jackie Bradley, he's not going to hit. He's never going to hit again, but he can go out there and at least play defense, play a good center field. Or are they worried about maybe longer term with Drew Waters? And a couple of other things just from Garcia playing center field. He's been so good with the bat, and so good with the bat in spring training. And he's probably the best defensive shortstop in the system. But they want to see what Bobby Witt Jr. is going to do. So they're giving Bobby Witt Jr., I think they should give him the entire season, unless it is so bad that at the All-Star break, he's just been a butcher and he's not getting better. And it's like, look, we tried it. We're moving him to third. And Garcia, you're the shortstop now, okay? So the way he can get on base for a shortstop is incredibly valuable. You lose the value in Bobby Witt, if or when Bobby Witt comes off shortstop. But it's hard for me to see Garcia in center and Bobby Witt knowing that, hey, you're getting the whole year because we want to know what you can do at shortstop, and not immediately get mad at the previous regime that they went through a season last year where they were pacing for 100 losses, a good portion of that, and we don't know if Bobby Witt can play shortstop. And they moved him off shortstop for Mondesi and Nicky Lopez and whoever the hell else to play shortstop, and move him to third, move him to short. Hell, let's try him at second base a little bit. Let's put him behind the dish because Melendez can't do it. So who's going to back up Salvi? I don't know. Like last year, we know this year is the figure out what you have year, and there's some excitement in that. It's not going to be winning a division, but it's some excitement in figure out what you have. But man, it'd be nice to know right now if Bobby Witt is your shortstop, or are you taking the season to see if you really can get him to play a good enough defensive shortstop to where his bat will make him valuable there before you sign him long term, or are you playing him at shortstop so that you can almost prove to him he can't play shortstop, so when we sign you to this long-term deal that we want to sign you to, we're not giving you crazy amounts of money and your bat and offensive approach and 20-30 and maybe 30-30 as a shortstop, we're giving you that money as a third baseman. And Tatis got the money as a shortstop, and now he's an outfielder. Not as valuable, Tatis in the outfield with that contract. But man, it would have been nice to see Bobby Witt last year at short and to know if you could do it or not. And if he's at third, then the way Garcia's playing, and maybe Garcia needs a little more seasoning. He's only got like 200 bats above Double-A. But he has improved every step along the way as he's gotten older. He is not a free swinger like his cousin. Okay? He's not Alcides. He's proven to be able to get on base. And if he's getting on base at 350, 360, as he's gone up from like 300 a few years ago to being up to 360, can that translate to the big leagues to some degree? And the way that he picks it at short, are you now a better team with Bobby Witt at third, Garcia at short, Massey at second, if he can continue to develop, and Vinny P over at first? I don't know. But the Royals don't know that either. And that's incredibly frustrating. And they're trying their best defensive shortstop in center field because they don't know if their best overall prospect / athlete / five-tool player can actually play the position where they were hoping he would play when they drafted him.
This isn't an answer or a prediction, but it maybe just is like treating the symptom of your rising blood pressure, because I feel
I like treating symptoms of that.
Well, sometimes it's all you can do, and the only way to get the sodium out on this one, I think,
Nice.
is that it might not have really mattered if we would have gotten a full year of Bobby Witt, everyday shortstop last year, or really any of the different things we could have seen cobbled together last season, because this front office is at least different philosophically, even though JJ is still the top dog, or I guess is now the top dog and was number 2 for a while. And with specifically this coaching staff, with it being Matt Quatraro at the helm, I wonder if they weren't going to have to start from somewhere relatively close to zero either way, right? To see, okay, well, when we put this into our plan, what do we need to see from you in each of these spots? But I would be pretty frustrated if we're at the All-Star break and we're going, yeah, so Bobby Witt continues to move around as the Royals try to find a spot that fits him. Because like you've already touched on, if he can be this bat as a, what would you say, average defensive shortstop?
That
would you take
great.
average?
Right now, settle out of court for average.
You get an average defensive shortstop in that bat, and that dude is a gold mine.
Mm-hmm.
You get his exact bat and put him at third, and he's a silver mine. You know, he's a building block of your organization. He could still be a superstar from third. But the extra value that you would get if he could prove to you that he could do it from the shortstop spot would be tremendous. But baseball's not played in a vacuum. Like, you do have to actually figure out what creates your best lineup, your best defensive field. And so I am... Maybe I'm just in a good mood for some reason.
You know what? I'm typically more positive about the Royals, and I am about this year, but this one is kind of frustrating.
And my hope is that it will give us something interesting to pay attention to through the first couple months of the season. Yeah. It's something to evaluate and to see where they start to go and if we can see results from that.
And maybe it's also because of my positivity on Garcia. Maybe that's also leading into this, is because if we found out last year, we know for a fact that Witt can't play short, well, then we're not worried about, hey, you know what? Dozier's defense looks like he's getting a little bit better. Because Witt's your third, and then Garcia is your shortstop, and you sort of move forward. But I'm worried that while they're trying to find out if Witt is the guy, moving Garcia around to see if he can fit somewhere. But it's also, I will say this, it also shows that they believe in Garcia, that they believe in that, you know what, he might force his way onto the team. And if he forces his way onto the team in the first month, well, then I don't think you're going to have an answer on Bobby Witt at that time. So then Garcia would need to find another spot because you want him playing as much as possible while he's out there. We'll talk about another outfielder, and MJ Melendez coming up next. Also, Vinny P is ranked with some of the best hitters in baseball. We'll tell you about that next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
What do you think of Greinke with the Chiefs? You like the deal, you like the signing, and what he can bring.
I
Can't
think,
get football out of his mind.
I think personally,
What did I say?
I think that Greinke should pitch for the Royals,
Did I say the
even
Chiefs?
though the Chiefs have a hole in their secondary. I think we should let him stay there.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
So there are some positive things that are going on in spring training. You know, they're winning a lot of games. They're hitting the ball. They're getting on base. They're striking people out. Brett Keller's got, according to David Lesky and a couple of scouts that he's talked to, career-changing pitches. He tweeted out that this was at Inside the Crown. He tweeted out that he's starting to, or trying not to, or starting to buy into Keller. And another scout told him, you should. Mm-hmm. Because what he's seen after working with Driveline is career-changing. And he said that's two different scouts, independent of each other, that said the same thing. Bubich with the slider that he worked on last year in spring training but didn't feel confident enough to use it during the season and is now using it more, which is good. Brady Singer had what he said after the game was maybe his best changeup that he felt, you know, in the outing in which he was really awesome, in his final tune-up before the World Baseball Classic, in which the USA gets underway on Saturday. Yep, Saturday at 9 o'clock on Fox.
Vinny Pasquantino is just out there creating international incidents, by the way.
Oh, no, I didn't see what happened.
It's just fun. No, he's playing for Team Italy.
He and Nicky Lopez.
And they've just been like creating content in that. I can't remember who it was against here. I want to make sure I get my countries straight for you.
Please.
But he's having a good time in the World Baseball Classic. And that's kind of a fun thing to see, like a Royals player and kind of a niche cult following, perhaps, for Vinny P.
5 a.m. tomorrow. Think they play?
I'll be watching.
Will you?
No.
Okay. But so those are some good things, okay? I want to make sure we point that out. And Vinny Pasquantino, when we look at what was tweeted out by the most well-rounded hitters in Major League Baseball for contact rate, judgment of the strike zone, launch angle value, the exit velocity value, the names that come up are Yordan Alvarez, Freddie Freeman, Joey Meneses, who had an amazing 50 games last year for the Nationals, Manny Machado, and then next up is Vinny Pasquantino. That is one hell of a group to be in.
He also drew a crowd in Taiwan, just surrounded by fans, and also surrounded by pretty good names.
They call him the Pasquatch. They're like, it's Pasquatch. Vinny Pasquantino.
I don't know how the nickname translates.
Pasquatch. And Nicky Lopez, Melendez playing for Puerto Rico. They play Saturday. USA plays Saturday. Salvi for Venezuela plays Saturday. There's some fun coming up with college basketball.
Now on Sports Radio 810 Sports Center.
This Sports Center is brought to you by First Federal Bank. Is your man cave ready? Complete your game day setup with a home equity line of credit from First Federal Bank of Kansas City. Because banking is personal. Get game day ready at ffbkc.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. The Big 12 tournament begins this afternoon in Kansas City. The beginning opening game, West Virginia, the 8 seed against Texas Tech, the 9. The winner of that game will advance to play KU in Game 4. And then Oklahoma State and Oklahoma will round it out tonight, as those are the 2 opening games with the bottom 4 seeds in the Big 12. Meanwhile, the NFL news continues to churn as the Baltimore Ravens made a little bit of a surprise, putting the non-exclusive franchise tag on quarterback Lamar Jackson, meaning he can negotiate with other teams. The Ravens will get a chance to match, but if they don't, they get 2 first-round picks in exchange for their franchise quarterback. We'll talk more about that on the other side of the break here. It's The Zone. Brad Spielberger of PFF joins us next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Sorry you didn't have any friends.
I did not.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with John Gasaway from ESPN, some college basketball, Big 12 tournament going on starting tonight. T-Mobile, we've got live coverage of the Big 12 tournament. It's brought to you by Barstool Sportsbook, Inside Hollywood Casino, Greenlight Dispensary, Jay Rieger and Company, CBD American Shaman, and Miller Lite. Let's talk some NFL football. From Pro Football Focus, our guest Brad Spielberger does a great job there covering the NFL and the salary cap and free agents and contracts and things like that, which is what we are hot and heavy into right now with the Chiefs and the news that came out on Monday with the decision they made. Brad Spielberger is our guest with us. Brad, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I am doing just fine. I appreciate you joining us. Let's start with the news that came out Monday. It was really surprising to everybody around here. We were on the air live and thought, all right, let's make sure that's Ian Rappaport and not Lan, L-A-N Rappaport, that's putting something out, or whoever else. It's not Adarn Schefter. We're not getting got, but the Chiefs are not placing the franchise tag on Orlando Brown. What was your reaction to seeing that news and hearing that essentially he's a free agent now?
I think you summed it up pretty perfectly. I definitely had to do the double check of the bio and make sure it was the right account. I really did get a multi-year deal done, but you start with a franchise tag again, see if you can work off of it, just under $20 million, which, as we know from last year, they were negotiating deals in the $19 million per year range, so not dramatically off of that number on a multi-year deal. And I think it says a lot. I think it shows, they realized they made a smart decision with Tyreek Hill and that they can, because of how incredible Patrick Mahomes is, they don't have to spend great money on good players. And that, I think, is what Orlando Brown was looking for. It clears up a lot of flexibility to do a lot of different things elsewhere along the roster, but I was definitely surprised.
Yeah, spending, I think, my colleague here, Josh, said spending elite money on good players is not how you go and win, and you don't need to with Patrick Mahomes. And there's a little bit of, his ability of turning pressures into non-sacks, his ability to avoid sacks when pressures come, and the best in the NFL this last year, only 10%. And that certainly came in handy in the Super Bowl against a team that pressures and sacks. And Patrick Mahomes showed why he's one of the best in that. They showed that they didn't need to do it with Tyreek Hill. They win a Super Bowl, and now with Orlando Brown. Is this setting up a next move for the Chiefs, whether that be a free agent, a draft, a trade? What do you think now Brett Veach, has under his sleeve for not wanting to pay $20 million for Orlando Brown and seeing whatever the market might be for filling that position?
Yeah, just with 2 moves with that, and of course the release of Frank Clark, you clear $40.5 million, right? So, you literally can do whatever you want. I think it's possible. I don't really think they're going to go in like the DeAndre Hopkins or level trade, but if they did want to add a big name wide receiver, there aren't really those guys in free agency, but maybe just like last year with A.J. Brown, we see one of these guys that's due for a new deal, doesn't get it, ultimately pushes very hard to get traded elsewhere. Maybe Kansas City is in that market. A couple names that come to mind, like a Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco, if maybe they can't find a way to pay him. Or you just, you bring back Juju Smith-Schuster. You make a lot of other small rotational and depth moves. And just, again, play it safe and get ready for, which I do think is coming sooner rather than later, Patrick Mahomes will be coming back to the table and saying, a lot of guys have surpassed me since I signed my deal. Let's fix that.
That annual average value for me and that, $45 million. Couldn't help but notice that Daniel Jones is making 40. I don't think I'm $5 million, more than Daniel Jones value. But yes, and he signed that incredibly team-friendly deal, did Patrick Mahomes, which allows them to continue to move money around from roster bonus to a signing bonus and move some of that and still be, valuable and still for how good he is. And damn you, Brad, for bringing up Brandon Ayuk, because I hadn't thought about that. And my heart fluttered a little bit if you're saying that the Chiefs are going to be in on Brandon Ayuk. Don't do that to me, Brad. All right? It's college basketball. There's already March Madness going on, okay?
I'm not trying to give you a heart attack, I promise. Just, one example that comes to mind of a team that has a lot of big contracts already. I thought he was phenomenal last year. And I'm not saying they want to get rid of him, but, hey, we saw Deebo Samuel make a trade request last year. Is it going to get, I don't want to say ugly, but is it going to get contentious again? Maybe.
Yeah. Look, if he needs a place to hang out and play football for the next few years, I will gladly embrace him with a huge hug. You know what? I will see if I can help pay for his flight to get here. I think he can take care of it, but just in case. Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, is our guest. What do you think the market is for Orlando Brown now as he goes out there, and multiple teams will certainly want to sign him?
Yeah, so the thing is, like I said, I think it is a pretty big signal that Kansas City didn't even place the tag. But still, at the end of the day, he is a good or maybe even very good, I don't say great, but, a plus left tackle, a clearly above average starter. And you look at the market, he's kind of the only one. There's obviously, a lot of right tackles in Juwan Taylor, Mike McGlinchey, Caleb McGarry, those guys. But on the blind side, which, of course, he kind of demands he must play over there, he's kind of the only name. So I still do think it's going to be around 20, 21 million. I don't think he's going to reset the market unless maybe some team, gets desperate and pulls the trigger there. But, my projection on our website was 5 years, 105 million. I'll stick in that range.
That's exactly what I thought maybe the Chiefs might go with. Part of it being your projection, but also part of it being that Orlando Brown, he scoffed at the notion of the 6 years and whatever the total number was, which gave him an annual average value that was better than Trent Williams. So he's the highest paid player per year, but it was such an inflated sixth year. It was $95 million over 5 years. To get where Trent Williams was essentially 5 years, $105 million. And would the Chiefs be willing to go $10 million more over the 5 years to secure Orlando Brown? And I think it pretty much says that they aren't. Do you think Brett Veach has a read on the market not being as strong for Orlando Brown, that maybe saying, okay, Orlando, go see what you can get and then come back to us once, the market may or may not work in your favor? Or the Chiefs just simply not willing to pay 20 or more for Orlando Brown, and they'll find something else to do there, that they just don't want to be locked up for 3 or 4 years with him at left tackle?
Yeah, I think maybe that is possible, that they think, hey, at the end of the day, he could not get as hot of a market as he wants, and then he'll realize, I have friends here. I want to continue to win championships, and so all those things find his way back. I do think, though, I think Laremy Tunsil could reset the market here this offseason, reset it again, obviously in the past. And so maybe some young players due for early extensions could maybe push this thing up a little bit. But I do think it's a calculated risk, and I think they're not afraid of, like I said, someone giving him, and also you're smart to point out, like Trent Williams' deal has some funny money on the back end that artificially inflates it. I think David Bakhtiari is probably the best example of a true $23 million per year. But yeah, maybe that is their calculated risk, and it plays out well for them.
They didn't place a franchise tag on him and then, maybe trade him, which was part of something that we thought, okay, if they're not going to sign him long term, you put the franchise tag on him and you trade him, right? It's easy.
Yeah.
You just press the trade button.
Sorry, I think I lost it for a second. Yeah, no, I I totally agree, and I think that, some team's going to offer you something. You maybe don't get the first-round pick that you sent back, but maybe get some draft capital. I know they said they valued him around a mid-second when they struck that deal, and maybe you get close to that and say, hey, you know what? We rented him for 2 years. We paid him, $16.6 million last year, got a ring out of it, and then recouped some draft capital at the end of it.
Yeah, I wonder this. Brad Spielberger is our guest, and you're so good with the salary cap and, the compensation formula. If maybe the Chiefs looked at it and said, okay, if Orlando Brown, if we can't agree to terms here, we're riding all year with $20 million on the cap with Orlando Brown, and we don't want to do that. We got so many other plans that we want. We don't want to go and take this $20 million. They had to do that last year with 16.6. I think they thought they were going to get a long-term deal done and drop that number, but they had to carry it all through the offseason, which may affect plans and what they wanted to do, and then all last year. So maybe the first part is we don't want to do that, but we'd like to get a second rounder for him, but then the risk of carrying him for $20 million. Is there, if the Chiefs looking at the formula of the comp picks that they say he's going to go out and get $100 million and Juju may get paid and Juan Thornhill may get paid, that with the formula that Orlando Brown maybe alone could bring back a third rounder depending on what money they spend, that they looked at it and said, we don't want to take the risk of carrying $20 million if we can't find the right trade partner, so we'll take maybe 40 picks lower in the draft in a comp pick than maybe we could have gotten in a trade, and not have the risk of carrying $20 million.
I think that is spot on. And Brett Veach comes from a team in Philadelphia that has always, every transaction they make has that in mind. I mean, look, every team to a degree thinks about it, but you can tell which GMs care more about it and make sure they don't cancel out compensatory picks. So, yeah, you led me right to it. If they don't bring back Juju Smith-Schuster and Juan Thornhill, I think those guys sign for fourth, probably fifth-round value. Let's say Kansas City signs two mid-tier free agents. And then, those two cancel out, but then you get the $20 million per year offer for Orlando Brown. You get a nice comp pick third, which they just used to trade for Kadarius Toney this past year. So, a lot of utility with that pick. Obviously, that was for Ryan Poles signing with the Chicago Bears. But, same concept. I think you're spot on.
Brad Spielberger is our guest. Donovan Smith, Isaiah Wynn, out there, maybe out there soon. But any possibility or any value in bringing Donovan Smith in, who is at least available right now, and maybe even Isaiah Wynn?
Yeah, the interesting thing with him is figuring out, was his poor play last year, and it was very poor, led the NFL in penalties and had a lot of issues, but he was injured. I mean, he played through an injury for a lot of the year, and I think people are kind of glossing over that now. He's been a serviceable quality, solid left tackle for the majority of his career. So, yeah, if the injury isn't a major concern, I think that is a solid stopgap move. Then you mentioned Isaiah Wynn. I think they probably would like his positional flexibility, too, because obviously Andrew Wiley is also up. So I'm sure they're going to be, more likely to maybe bring him back on a fair deal. But, yeah, and then there's kind of like depth and more swing options. I like a George Fant, coming out of New York, didn't play well this year, but has been good in the past. There's a lot of those options as well. Just, solid depth swing options.
Where do you think Orlando Brown ends up if you're taking a guess right now in the free agent market and teams that would be interested? Where's Orlando Brown playing next year?
I think New England actually makes a little bit of sense. They really don't have – they have Trent Brown, and yes, they can play him at left tackle, but, he has weight clauses in his contract and misses time, and is a guy that they clearly, have some concerns with. They're just showing up to camp, at his right weight. So as much as we can say that, Orlando Brown maybe ruffled some feathers, I don't think there's nearly the same level of concern as what he does in his free time and being ready to play. So, I know people say, New England never spends in free agency. That was the case for 20 years. It has not been the case the last couple. Yeah. I think Bill Belichick is a little bit impatient and wants to win before he hangs up his cleats, so to speak. So they kind of jump out to me as a team that maybe gets into that market.
Brad Spielberger is our guest from Pro Football Focus. Lamar Jackson, the non-exclusive tag, and then teams come out immediately and say, well, we're not interested in trading for Lamar Jackson. What did you take away from the non-exclusive for the Ravens, and then what the reaction was from teams that it seemed like were interested in trading for Lamar Jackson or figuring out some sort of compensation and contract?
I don't want to say the collusion word on the airwaves, but I guess I just did. I mean, look, it was very weird. For an hour after the news comes out, they're tagging, you see a half dozen teams and most of those teams that have literally nothing at quarterback, to not even say, hey, yeah, we'll meet with him, we'll hear what he wants, and if it doesn't align, then we'll go our separate ways and say thanks for talking to us. But instead they say, we're not going to pursue him, we're not interested. And I'll tell you this, everyone's mentioning the whole, which is the biggest part, the fact that he wants a fully guaranteed deal or he wants a ton of fully guaranteed money, just like Deshaun Watson. Yes, that is the main reason. But for me, the reason why I also got rubbed the wrong way is, look, if Lamar Jackson had an agent, in particular one of the big power broker agents in the NFL, none of those teams are releasing those statements yesterday. They're saying the opposite. They're saying, yeah, we'll meet with him, we'll see what he wants, we'll talk with his agent, who we have a good relationship with, yada, yada, yada. And then maybe the result is the same, but they're not coming out that strongly right away. So, I think it is a situation where maybe we do see a grievance filed by Lamar Jackson or by the NFLPA. I think this storyline is going to dominate the entire offseason, as it probably should.
Yeah, if he had an agent, do you think it's more likely that he gets a fully guaranteed deal, or agent or no agent, they're just not going down that route again?
So I don't think it would make it more likely, because the Watson thing is just such a one-off, such a unique, rare situation where he basically was a free agent, in his prime of his career as a top 10 quarterback at that point. Like, we're never going to see that, right? Because of the franchise tag being a leverage play that teams had at their disposal. But 2 first-round picks for Lamar Jackson is a great deal. It's less than Watson got. It's less than Russell Wilson, obviously, garnered last year. So I just more think it's about the optics and the language, that if he had, let's say Deshaun Watson's agent, who's one of the most powerful agents in the NFL, those teams are not saying what they said yesterday, in my opinion.
Kirk Cousins got a fully guaranteed deal, right?
He got a 3 years fully guaranteed. Yep.
So there's a couple of quarterbacks that have gotten fully. Is it the money? Is it the $230 for Deshaun Watson being fully guaranteed, as opposed to whatever the 80 or 90, whatever it was for Kirk Cousins at the time? I just remember it being fully guaranteed, and it's like, well, I guess that's what happens when you're a decent quarterback and you're a full free agent and teams are desperate, that you can kind of name your price, or at least not have to worry about the funny money in the contracts. Is it the $230 that people are scoffing at with Lamar, or just being the third then quarterback to get fully guaranteed, and then you really start to set a precedent?
Yeah, so it is the amount. So $230 million fully guaranteed at signing. The second highest number ever was Aaron Rodgers at 101.5. Right, so it's more than double. Right, it's more than double the next highest fully guaranteed at signing. But I also say with Kirk, it's also 3 years, where most of these quarterbacks are getting 2.5 years fully guaranteed at signing. When you go to the 4th and 5th year and you want fully guaranteed at signing, as opposed to, like with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, the rolling guarantee structure, where in reality they are protected for those years, but it's not fully guaranteed the day you sign it. That is the distinction.
Brad Spielberger is our guest. Do you think we'll get to a point to where it may be more common with fully guaranteed contracts?
I really don't, because the thing is that some owners simply, and look, far be it from me to say that these billionaire owners don't have money, but there is an escrow rule where you have to put future fully guaranteed money aside in an escrow account. And some owners, like Jim Haslam with the Browns, who are independently wealthy, can do that. But the most common question I get is, of course, this offseason, as it relates to Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. The Bengals and the Chargers are not liquid enough to be able to put that much money into escrow, and so they're not going to do it. So I really don't think it's a thing, because I also, last thing, I think it's a one-off because, like I said, Watson was a free agent, whereas if the Bengals and Chargers say, hey, we can't get to an agreement, we'll just slap a franchise tag on you and let you take the risk of staying healthy for these next couple of years, like we're not going to go there.
Yeah, Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus is our guest, does a great job covering the salary cap. You mentioned that. I was going to go next at the quarterback and the escrow and how much guaranteed dollars that are there, and with Mike Brown and the Bengals, and we look at the Chargers in this offseason of Burrow and Herbert and Hurts. How do you think they can work around that and structure the contracts with Burrow and Herbert that are going to have to be some sizable numbers that are there and some guaranteed dollars? I know that the Bengals went in at Paycor as a sponsor and advertiser for the stadium, so they can bring in a little bit more money, have a little bit more revenue. But how do they work a Joe Burrow massive contract extension with not being as liquid as some other owners?
Yeah, so I think it's twofold. So first is you copy the Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen model with those rolling guarantees. That is the actual precedent that I think, when everyone asks me, is Watson's deal going to become the norm? No. It's going to be this rolling guarantee structure where, in 2023, your 2025 money is fully guaranteed. In 2024, 2026, so on and so forth. The second way for those two, though, is they're going to have to get massive signing bonuses. Like maybe as of right now, Dak Prescott's $66 million signing bonus is the biggest ever. Mahomes and Allen actually did not get very big signing bonuses. But with those teams where they're going to push back very hard on how much you guarantee in the future, I think they're going to have to give gigantic signing bonuses because, end of the day, early year cash flow also trumps guarantees. That is the most important thing is how much money can I get as fast as possible? That's the true name of the game.
Yeah, no, it's a great point about the rolling guarantees, and therefore you don't have to put as much money, the $200 million in escrow right away. Whereas, and even that signing bonus, Josh Allen was $16.5, and Mahomes is only a $10 million signing bonus. So if you're trying to be liquid and write a check that quickly, it's much easier for an owner to do $10 million rather than here's a $70 million signing bonus, which can be pretty absurd. Last one for you, just sort of curious on the running backs being franchise tagged. Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, all receiving the franchise tag. Is that sort of the market saying there's the value of a premier running back is going to be about $10 million, and maybe you go year to year if you have to on a franchise tag. Maybe there's a couple of year deal, but you don't want to be in a position to where you're 16, 17 million against the cap with Ezekiel Elliott, that you'd rather go the $10, $11 million route.
Yeah, that market is experiencing a massive correction, no doubt about it. Probably will continue. McCaffrey signed for $16 million a year in 2019, and I don't think his deal is going to get surpassed anytime soon. So, and that, of course, as we know, is not common at pretty much every other position in the NFL, where it always just tends to grow and grow and grow. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by any of the three franchise tags. We already saw Aaron Jones take a pay cut in Green Bay.
Yeah.
I'm sure Minnesota with Dalvin Cook and Cincinnati with Joe Mixon and Dallas with Ezekiel Elliott will also say, hey, look, we can't pay you. You got to take a pay cut or we'll just cut you. And we don't think you're going to beat, all those guys are owed in cash-wise around that $10 million this upcoming season. That's probably what they say, hey, look, no one's going to give you more than that. So take a pay cut from us or good luck to you. That is the state of that position market right now. It's in a bad spot, and I think, we all saw that correction coming, but I wonder if we are getting towards an inflection point maybe in the near future, but I don't think it's happening, anytime soon.
The Raiders turned down the Josh Jacobs fifth-year option, which would have been about $8 million to pay him this year, and the franchise tag gives him $10 million. Was that a $2 million insurance policy by the Raiders that if he wasn't any good, wasn't what they expected, then you let him walk and you're not stuck with $8 million? Therefore, if he's really, really good, well, you know what, we'll have to pay the premium and at least the $2 million extra to give us an option of whether we walk on him or not.
So I think this is going to be the new approach because up until 2018, these fifth-year options used to only be guaranteed for injury, but you could get out of it. The most recent example was Leonard Floyd, the Chicago Bears. They pick up his option. They don't love his play in his fourth year, and they just cut him with no financial penalty. But now they are fully guaranteed the minute you exercise them, and so that's why you saw a lot of teams do it. It's funny, though. You mentioned Josh Jacobs, also Daniel Jones, also Caleb McGarry with the Atlanta Falcons, all guys that, had career years after getting the option declined. So maybe some teams are scared now and say, I want to avoid this downstream effect of what that happens there. But, example in the opposite, Darnell Savage with the Green Bay Packers, the safety, they owe him, I want to say, about $11 or $12 million. And I think they probably would love to move on from him, but they can't now.
Yeah. Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, does a great job covering the salary cap. Brad, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much, man. And great stuff, great information as well. And certainly Pro Football Focus, great spot to go to with the free agent rankings, the contract values and predictions and things like that. So thank you for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. There's Brad Spielberger. Great stuff there. And again, if you go to Pro Football Focus, you can see all the free agent rankings. You can see what the contract values will be next to the name and the predicted contracts. Like they also have players that they are connecting with different teams. The Chiefs are connected with a couple of players that are in their rankings of their free agents, one of them being Marcus Davenport from the Saints. They put that as 1 year, $12 million. For Marcus Davenport, edge, and see if a 26-year-old can say, let me play 1 year and show that, I'm better than the sacks are going to come with the win rate that's been there for me. I'm one of the better edge rushers when it comes to win rate, and now I'm going to start getting sacks, and I get to play for a championship, and I can play in the playoffs and maybe get more shine, so I'll sign a 1 year deal. They also have the Chiefs connected to Michael Thomas with a 1 year, $12.5 million contract from the Saints. Anybody else in New Orleans that wants to have a 1 year prove it? I don't know. Tyrann Mathieu. Let's see if he's. Let's see. What would he look like in a Chiefs uniform? Let's go to Photoshop and see what Tyrann Mathieu in a Chiefs uniform would look like. But those are just a couple of players that are connected that they have at least predicted. Hey, here's a team that we may think has some interest that's there. And just for comparison's sake, they have Juju Smith-Schuster as 3 years, averaging $12 million per year. Michael Thomas 1 year, $12.5 million per year. So you got a guy who's been much more injured in Michael Thomas than Juju Smith-Schuster. But when healthy is one of the best in the league in Michael Thomas. So we'll find out what happens with that. So is there collusion going on with Lamar Jackson? Be hard to say no. I mean, all that was just a little too curious when the announcement of the non-exclusive tag, and then teams like, we're not interested. We're not interested. We're not paying fully guaranteed dollars. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will continue rolling. We'll talk with John Gasaway coming up at noon from ESPN, some college basketball. We'll hang out with Mick Shaffer in the 1 o'clock hour. He'll be at the studio at the Power and Light District, McFadden studio, as the Big 12 tournament getting underway tonight. We take a timeout. We come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. You're in the zone with Jason Anderson.
I heard, yeah, you're terrible.
Thank you. Good. Mark that, please, Shane. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that, man. Cool.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thank you to Brad Spielberger, Pro Football Focus, talking about the franchise tags and salary caps and just fun stuff. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. Eat it up. So the Chiefs have a number of decisions to make now moving forward with their left tackle being vacant right now, right tackle being vacant with Andrew Wiley being a free agent as well. And so thank you to Brad Spielberger. We talked a lot of baseball in the first hour with the Royals and Garcia playing center, Bobby Witt short, Garcia more of a shortstop. We haven't even got into the MJ Melendez stuff that's there. But Vinny Pasquantino's amazing numbers from a year ago that just match up with some of the best in baseball. Brady Singer's awesome changeup that he felt, and he gets ready for the World Baseball Classic. And USA starts on Saturday with Adam Wainwright going to the mound, but Brady Singer, one of the starters for Team USA in the pool play that they'll have, and then they finish in the top two, then on to the elimination rounds with the World Baseball Classic. And, of course, Brad Keller and his new stuff, and Chris Bubich with a slider to help out against lefties. So there's some excitement. They're pitching it. They're hitting it. They're picking it. They're winning it. And it always translates, which is a good thing.
Always,
good thing. And I can't wait for our ZOUs with the Royals so that I can go and lose some more money in lunches by being overly positive about the Royals like I did last time.
Greinke, Singer, Lyles, Lynch, Keller. I mean, hey, look, that's not bad, Jason. You should take the overs, all the overs. Maybe even move the lines up a little bit and take the overs. I'll take the under.
You think that's what it's going to be? I think
that's what I said in Fact or Fiction a week or two ago, and it's also what Lesky has in his roster projection right now, and I trust Lesky's eye more than mine. And so I want it to be. That I think is the most exciting five probably.
Those top four, I would say are pretty set.
If Daniel Lynch isn't in the rotation, something horribly wrong has happened.
So I think those top four, and then to me it's Bubich or Keller.
Yep.
And
you could argue that Bubich would be more exciting, I guess.
Well, I mean, he could be, but that's, assuming that the slider's any good.
Right.
Brad Keller has a couple of year run of where it's like, hey, he had like a 3 ERA. Like it didn't seem sustainable by the advanced metrics, and guess what? It wasn't. Mm-hmm. But if the new stuff comes in with at least some pedigree, I'm using my finger and thumb to sort of very small, a little pedigree.
Smallest violin full of pedigree.
A little, I squishy your head. A little pedigree with Brad Keller. Then maybe it is, Keller. His numbers in spring training aren't great, but I don't really care that much about spring training numbers.
I care about spring training wins. I just care about spring training alphabets.
That's exactly
right. Not spring
right.
training numbers.
Don't care about the numbers. We care about the alphabets, the wins and the losses. I care about what his stuff looks like, and as he's working on things, what it will look like during the season when he's actually got to go out there and get guys out. And I will say, I wondered last year with the defense the Royals played, or lack thereof, and how often Brad Keller seemed to get bitten by the shift, that he would throw a perfect pitch and it was a slow roller to short, only the shortstop was on the other side of second base and it was just a base hit. And then Brad Keller just sort of sinks. And then he starts giving up more hits. And I think that happened more times than people want to give credit to. And I talked with Mark Mulder, I think last year, or maybe the year before. I don't know. It's been going on with Brad Keller. And he was a guy that was, got a lot of ground balls. And he said the first time that the shift was on and the ball went through the infield, he would lose his bleep.
Yeah.
But then the flip side is, what about the time where that ball is hit right back up the middle and the shortstop's right there? So typically it all evens out. But I wonder if a pitcher like a Mulder or a Keller who got a lot of ground ball outs, if they feel good after a shot right back up the middle that's an out, as opposed to the feeling awful about making a pitch that's a slow roller to short that should just be your regular either 6-3 or 6-4-3 double play that then goes through and you go, well, I just made a pitch. Yep. That shot back up the middle, I didn't make my pitch. So that's on me, and thankfully the defense was there. I made my pitch on these, and it still was a hit, and this was frustrating. Mulder at least talked about it would be very frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know if Brad Keller, if that was, a victim of the shift being there and hits going through. I'm not sure, but it's obvious that he went to work on things that would help with, striking guys out and getting swing and miss stuff. And not just being a guy that I hope you put this in play on the ground and let my defense go and pick it, because this ain't the team that I'm really relying on defense to go and make crazy plays for you.
The shift coming back to bite you is such an interesting thing. It's a moving target, right? Obviously, the pitcher knows where the shift's going to be, so you can make the argument of, hey, you know where the defense is. If they hit it where the defense isn't, that's on you. But I really do kind of buy that idea of, man, if you feel like you went out there and you did your job, it would be as deflating as an error or something, right? But that might not even be as debilitating, because an error, you go, well, he was in position and, went off the heel of his glove or whatever. Sometimes bleep happens. But if you feel like, all right, everything went in a direction that I'm comfortable with, I made my pitch, it went right to the shortstop. Come on, man. What do you want? It was on the ground.
So now we've got first and third with one out instead of I'm out of the inning by a double play.
For the last 100 years, that's been an out. Why can't that be an out for me?
First base, one out, and I get a slow roller to short. I'm out of the, right, it's first and third now. One
first
out.
and third, okay.
And,
all right, now I'm in a jam. No, and it's not going to, and it won't get taken off your ERA like an error would, you know? I mean, this is going to look like a hit to the gap that you gave up, and I can see that being kind of a fun or stressful push and pull.
And I just, signing Jackie Bradley, okay, there's nothing wrong with having a phenomenal center fielder at Kauffman Stadium with a, younger pitching staff when you still are developing Lynch and Bubic. And
you don't want to give up freebies because somebody couldn't get to a ball.
Absolutely. And with Keller, if he's got some new stuff, he's a free agent at the end of this year, so there's kind of a decision to make. If Keller's pretty good and you're like, well, we buy into this, then do you extend him? So that's interesting. I ain't counting on anything from Brad Keller. Let me just say that. I'll be pleasantly surprised with stuff from Brad Keller. I'm not counting on much from Chris Bubic either. I'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm not counting on anything from Jackson Kowar. I'll be pleasantly surprised. We'll see. But there's definitely value if you're trying to develop those guys with how you play defense. And if you've got Bobby Witt, that just was not a good shortstop defensively last year, and you're wanting to see if he can play shortstop because you're not convinced, because you yourself don't know if he's good enough defensively. Dozier, not good defensively over at third. Pasquantino, not what Nick Prado offers. Isbell is really good in center field, but not the burner that's going to get to everything. He's going to play a great center field because of his instincts and his routes. And then you've got Edward Olivares, who struggles defensively in left, and MJ Melendez, catcher turned outfielder, or maybe not even a catcher turned outfielder in right field. It doesn't feel like the defense to go and say, hey, we're developing some young pitchers with confidence that if you put the ball into play in this spacious stadium, don't worry, the out's going to be made. And that's certainly a concern with guys that you don't have. Max Scherzer up there that's going to get 200-plus strikeouts. You don't have that guy. You got Greinke that's going to be good, but the strikeouts aren't going to come the way that they did. And we've talked about, Keller being in the rotation, not a strikeout guy. Bubic being in the rotation, not a strikeout guy. Daniel Lynch can, but he seems to be really good at causing foul balls. But that last element of getting them to swing and miss and not continue to foul it off until they put it into play means you pitch 4 innings, because here's a 7-pitch at bat and an 8-pitch at bat, because these guys are really good at just barely making contact. Well, what's the final step there? And if it's put into play, I'm concerned about the defense, certainly the left side of the infield. And I like Edward Olivares a lot, but I'm not a big fan of Edo in the outfield of how he plays. And if he gets better defensively, great. And that's where I think, even if Jackie Bradley can't hit, does he make the opening day roster, even though they just signed him and he's a minor league contract, just because you need? I mean, maybe it's Nate Eaton. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe Nate Eaton somewhere in the outfield. Maybe it's Eaton in center and Isbell in right. And then it's either Melendez or Edward Olivares in left. Or maybe it's a revolving left field and it's, Isbell and, Eaton and maybe Waters when he comes back. I should throw in Eaton there because the guy can play all over the place, but he kind of feels like he's going to be a jack of all trades, that he's going to play third if need be, second if need be, outfield positions. He's just going to be that guy on this team. But when you go into your starting, what looks like your starting outfield of Edward Olivares in left, Isbell in center, and Melendez in right, there's some concern as to the spacious outfield as to how good they are going to be at getting outs when the ball is put into play.
We've mostly, I think, just done the jokes about MJ Melendez to this point. We got those numbers aren't changing, Jason. We'll get there. We can get there. But it is just sort of a strange, bizarro spot to be in. We're talking about, this Royals team, they've got some really promising bats if they could just figure out the defense. Whoa, wait, what? Sorry, what year? How long was I asleep for?
Is this 2000?
Wait, yeah, I was pretty sure. The last thing I remembered was that the Royals played great defense and had a bullpen, and you had to keep the line moving.
I guess in early 2000s, it was like these guys can score, but they can't pitch. They might be able to play defense, but these pitchers are awful. But you know what? They're going to score. They're going to lose some 8-7 ball games with this lineup that they had.
What would you give
Beltran and Dye and Damon and Sweeney and you got some guys that can go out and absolutely play some good baseball, but you have nobody on the mound that can stop the other team. But
I would take that. I would take some 8-9 games this year, by the way.
If it's a year where you're just trying to figure some things out and it's an entertaining, quicker games that are entertaining, that's great. But no, we talk about MJ Melendez, and I think if Freddie Fermin is on this team as the backup catcher to Salvador Perez, it's kind of saying that they're moving on from MJ Melendez as a catcher, right? Wouldn't that be the indication? If Fermin is not on the team and they keep somebody else as a position player, so you free up that spot because Melendez can catch when Salvi's not there instead of having specifically a backup catcher in Fermin. But Baseball Savant put out the new catcher metrics that are coming out, and the ability to block a pitch. And some of the best catchers in baseball, Adley Rutschman, Trevino, Real Muto, Alejandro, these are guys that grade pretty well on the ability to block a pitch. And there are 66 catchers that were measured here, including Salvador Perez, who's 16th on this
Middle
list.
Middle of the pack. Seems about right.
Blocks above average over a season, about 5 for Salvador Perez. The leader is Adley Rutschman at 18. And then 15, 14, 12 on down. They go to 66 different catchers. And number 66 is MJ Melendez. At minus 25, blocks above average or blocks below average, minus 25, meaning over the course of the season, an average catcher would block 25 more baseballs than MJ Melendez is able to do over the course of the season. Ranking 65th is Eric Haas at minus 11. There's a 14-point block difference between number 66 Melendez and number 65 Eric Haas. And as Randy Gisarelli pointed out, Josh, what was it? The difference between Melendez and Haas is the difference between Haas and where?
It is a 14-point spread from Melendez to Haas and Yasmani Grandal. They're both at minus 11. If you then go to plus 3, which is a 14-point jump, that takes you all the way up to 22.
Oh.
So the difference between MJ Melendez and the second worst defensive catcher measured last year would be a slightly above average catcher in Major League Baseball from the second to last to up, essentially. It is, let me say that better. There is a bleeping Grand Canyon between the second worst defensive catcher in baseball and MJ Melendez.
Which, if we're getting to if this is a figure out what you have season, then I have an idea of what they have in Freddie Fermin. I have an idea of what they have in MJ Melendez. Okay, and if he's not playing catcher, if Fermin is on then they're telling you what they have in MJ Melendez in terms of a catcher. So then it's a figure out what you have where he can play that isn't behind the plate. Mm-hmm. That you don't have your next catcher. That it felt like for years through the system, MJ Melendez playing catcher, and he's going to figure it out defensively. And he's a good defensive catcher, is what somebody that apparently has eyes, I'm not sure if that's the case, felt like was the case with MJ Melendez, that he's a good defensive catcher, but man, he can absolutely hit. And he can. He's got pop in the bat, and his bat will play, in the corner outfield. But it does feel like, and I'm not, I'm not advocating for the Royals to trade every single prospect that starts to have some success in the minor leagues to go and get other players. But they certainly missed the window to maximize MJ Melendez to trade him as a catcher.
Yeah.
Because trading him as a corner outfielder now with his numbers is not nearly as valuable as, hey, this guy's coming up into AAA and he's going to learn to catch. He's getting better and better, and look what he's doing with his bat, and it's time to move him. And that would be self-scouting at the Royals. That's self-scouting to know that this guy ain't going to catch. This guy, he doesn't have it. He's not going to have it. And in fact, I'll flip it. Remember when Billy Butler got moved to left field, playing on the left side of the infield, and then they moved him to left field, and it was like, what are you doing?
I hadn't remembered that in a very long time.
I felt bad for Billy Butler. Like, it wasn't his fault.
It was like punishment.
Like,
send him to timeout.
He wasn't playing outfield in the minors on an everyday basis where you then brought him up and said, hey, you've been working on this. It's the opposite of Billy Butler moving to the outfield in a different position for me with MJ Melendez. MJ Melendez behind the plate feels like Billy Butler in left field. Because you start to feel bad with how many times he has to turn around and walk back to the backstop to go and get the ball. And
Randy Gisarelli also makes the point that all of this we've been talking about is separate from his pitch framing, which Randy points out is also worst in class and far more impactful.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
two
true.
Two independent defensive metrics have MJ Melendez last year alone. Yeah. Not like there's not room to get better, and maybe we're about to find out that he made huge strides this offseason for whatever reason. But last year, in two completely independent defensive metrics, he was an enormous liability behind the plate. And I don't mean a liability compared to average. I mean a liability compared to anyone else who got put back there. I mean, it is. I think there's something too. Boy, it kind of makes me feel bad watching this happen to MJ Melendez.
I mean,
but it's not like he's a Hoover in right field either, which is sort of becomes a concerning part of all of this.
He's less of a liability in the corner.
Sure.
And, in 129 games that he played this year, rookie year, 23 years old, OPS plus at 99, so essentially average. 18 home runs, had another 21 doubles, had a few triples because he can run. Like, there's some pop in his bat. And what you're hoping is this year, those numbers increase, and maybe he gets to 25 home runs. Maybe that on-base percentage increases to 330. That would be great. Maybe that's too much of a leap and an expectation. With that, maybe 320 is probably more likely from 313 to 320. Hopefully that's the case, and he gets better and better, and he gets better in the outfield as well. Because, again, we'll find out here soon. If Fermin is on the team, then the Royals are moving on from MJ Melendez as a catcher.
As a catcher, right.
If Fermin is not, then the Royals are still saying there's a chance for him to be catcher. But that wouldn't make sense because if you really want him to be the next catcher after Salvi, then he probably needs to be in Omaha doing it every day. And that's not going to help you this year. But again, this year is the figure out what you have here, right? This is when you come out of this year, you better have an idea about Bobby Witt, whether that's Melendez, Keller, Bubic, Lynch, center field, Massey, Vinny P, Prado if he, gets back up here, Eaton, what he can do. You were hoping Waters, Isbell, if I didn't mention them already. Like, if this is one of those years, if Fermin's on the team, then they're saying, what do we have as Melendez as a right fielder? If Fermin's not, then I'm not sure what you're trying to figure out with Melendez unless you just say it helps us to have him be back there once every 4 days.
Yeah.
And give us the versatility of having an extra position player rather than carrying Fermin and him playing once every 4 days. And that's essentially all he's going to do.
And I kind of like that logic, but at that point, make Hunter Dozier catch. I mean, really, who cares? Who cares? Give Salvi a break. It does not matter to me. Brady Singer could probably also catch.
And the question also is who's going to play first base when Vinny Pasquantino needs a day off? Because they don't have that natural guy either.
Maybe Vinny could catch.
Vinny's got first base. Let him play first base. Maybe that's Franmil Reyes, who's going to be the DH, I believe.
You know who could be the backup catcher? Lorenzo Cain.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The Gambit, other than being a character from X-Men, this describes it as a device. Channing Tatum actually Tatum?
Wow.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, wrapping up this second hour of the show, we'll talk with John Gasaway. He's from ESPN. Get his thoughts on some college basketball. Has ACC tournament going on right now. Big 12 tournament going on tonight. Mick Shaffer downtown already. We'll hang out with him in the 1 o'clock hour as he is downtown getting ready for the Big 12 tournament. Live coverage. Oh, sorry. No. Me. You.
Hunter Dozier should be a backup catcher. He's 6'4". He played hockey all through high school.
You've worn.
He's your guy. Who's that great analysis brought to you by?
You've worn the tools of ignorance. It's brought to you by and live coverage of the Big 12 tournament. Barstool Sportsbook inside Hollywood Casino, Greenlight Dispensary, Jay Rieger and Company, CBD American Shaman, and Miller Lite.
Hunter Dozier, human backstop. I think he could do it.
Done and done.
Give him hockey pads.
Right. Just have him just set up and the ball just bounces off of him. Perfect. And then he just picks it up.
That's what MJ Melendez has been doing.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
To your point, I'll grant you.
I don't want you to grant me anything.
No, I'm going to grant it.
I'm going to take it.
I'm granting this to you. I'm writing it right here.
I'm going to take this from you here in a second.
This is a grant.
Go ahead and
you can have it when I pass. I am going to.
You don't pass very often.
I do not. No, I don't. I like to shoot. It's a black hole. You throw it to me, I'm shooting. Sorry, it's your fault. I mean, you shouldn't have passed it to me, you idiot.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. Next couple of hours, we'll talk with Mick Shaffer, who is downtown at the McFadden studio coming up an hour from now as we're getting ready for the Big 12 tournament. It gets underway tonight. Talking some college basketball from ESPN, the analytics, the numbers of it, and just overall the great stuff from John Gasaway from ESPN joining us here in the Zone. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. It's a great time of year. Thanks for having me.
I absolutely love it, and I've talked about it a couple of times, John, that I don't know if I can remember a time where anybody, at least me personally, cared about the Wednesday session of the Big 12 tournament, and yet 3 of the 4 teams actually are still alive, technically, for the NCAA tournament. It's crazy what this conference is, and there are a couple of games tonight that are actually intriguing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about the Big 12 is it is a bubble team's dream. I mean, you win one game on Wednesday, and boom, you're ushered forward with a shot against a Kansas or a Texas. I mean, think about poor Clemson marooned in this huge ACC bracket. They don't get chances like that. So full credit to the bubbly Big 12 teams. They've got a chance, and if they don't make it, they don't make it, but they have the opportunity.
Visiting with John Gasaway, and we'll get into the 8 teams that can win the national title. I love that every year from you. I do a similar thing with the NFL and the Super Bowl as the teams that make the playoffs. I've been close the last 5 years. There's about 8 different categories I use, and the last 2 years the winners have finished where they needed to in 7 of the 8, but not all 8. But I do love the 8 teams that can win the national title for you. So I want to get into that here in just a little bit. It's the best few weeks in basketball, and I'm just curious from your perspective, so much basketball you consume throughout the year. Are you a bigger fan of this week or even next week when we get the first round and second round of the NCAA tournament and we're just consuming so much basketball? But we got basketball on right now. We got basketball on all day today and tonight and tomorrow on into Sunday with Selection Sunday. I mean, if you can't get enough basketball right now, then you're a fiend for something else.
Yeah, I love it all. I don't need one week over the other. I want everything. And this week has its own feel. I love that, basketball that matters is happening during the day on Wednesday and Thursday of Champ Week especially is always kind of the peak of the action because not too many teams have been eliminated yet. So Thursday is just wild. But I love it all, and I love the buzzer beaters that get your ticket punched. I mean, that is a special kind of feeling that you only get in Champ Week. So I can't wait for it all to really start rolling now.
Visiting with John Gasaway from ESPN. Okay, so KU is one of the 8 teams that you have that can win a national title. Compared to teams nationally, what do you think of this KU team? Because there's been discussions around here most of the year because it doesn't feel like a national championship caliber type team from Bill Self. That has been a common theme, and it feels like, hey, KU's a definite 1 seed. There's a pretty good chance they're going to be in Kansas City, but it doesn't feel like they're going to be in the Final Four. Like KU, go ahead and KU fans, go ahead and reserve your weekend down in Houston because this is a Final Four team. What are they compared to teams nationally then? Because I feel like we're comparing KU to last year's KU and 2008 KU, teams that we've seen win a national title with Bill Self.
Right. I grant that it's a strange situation, an interesting sensation maybe for KU fans because, You're exactly right. If you compare this team to last year, what are we doing here? I mean, this is not the same veteran bunch that Bill Self had a year ago, but we're talking about a team this year that has a shot at being the overall number one seed. And the odd thing about what you describe so well is, thank you for the spoiler alert, KU is one of the 8 teams.
Yes. I haven't given out the other 7 yet, John.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, we need those subscriptions, man. This is ESPN Plus. But the interesting thing about including KU is they're actually one of the bigger reaches, to include in the group of 8 in terms of KenPom. They're when the odds come out, when Ken does that, when we've got the bracket, KU is not going to be, the number one favorite, even though they've got an excellent chance at a number one overall seed. So that's the kind of year it is, and I think there's blue sky for any good team this year. I don't think there's big, swaggering, great teams like we occasionally see, and a relatively, young group like KU, young in the sense that, Grady Dick is a very important first-year player, and that's kind of unusual in the sport where everybody's saying, "Oh, you got to be old," with all these old transfers. There is an opportunity for a team like this plucky, possible overall number one seed KU Jayhawks. So we'll see how it plays out.
Visiting with John Gasaway from ESPN. So, who do you think the best team in the country is?
I think that's Houston, and I think that, this obviously is the last season where they kind of suffer from this perceptual issue that I'm about to refer to, but they play in the American, and people, and they dominate that conference, and people don't necessarily, sit down to watch Houston playing its games during the regular season, but they generate an enormously high number of shots because they take excellent care of the ball and they crash the offensive glass. We know they play defense, and it's just a really good way to play. Can't wait to see them next year in the Big 12. My gosh, can you imagine a team this good, added to an already ridiculous Big 12? That's going to be fantastic. But they're the team that I'm looking at as potentially, we refer to them in the past tense as a great team, capital G, capital T. They need to win it all to get that honor, but I wouldn't put it past them. The view of Gonzaga of yesteryear, when we've talked about them, in the West Coast Conference, and who have they played, and really their schedule is the non-conference to really prove themselves. And Houston, played Alabama, lost that game, beat Oregon, beat St. Mary's, beat Virginia, and has a couple of wins against Memphis this year in the AAC. As you look at opponent comparison, we look at the Big 12, we look at some of the other bigger schools. Is it just projecting and understanding what this team can do, what these players on Houston can do, how good they are with Sasser and Sheed and Walker and go on down the line, and Mark and Roberts, who can drop 20 and has done that a couple of times, like these different players for Houston, and how much is it maybe an unknown, certainly from people around the country, but an unknown because of not getting an opportunity to see them, every couple of weeks against a Duke or an Alabama or a Kansas. Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the mystery around Houston is, or should be, dissipating because, they certainly don't wilt when they get to March Madness. They've had great runs recently, and last year they did it from a not very good seed. They were woefully underseeded as a 5, and they still did fine. And we know that they have the capacity to do this, and plus, as Kelvin Sampson has achieved this level of success, now he's starting to get dudes. I mean, back in the day, he was doing it without serious heavy duty success on the recruiting front. Now he's achieving that success. He's got talent, and is still making it work, even though it's obviously a blue collar, hardworking attitude that the Cougars have had. So, anything can happen in March, and every team's going to lose except one. I'm not guaranteeing a national championship by any means, but definitely a team I have my eye on.
Have we figured out a good way of deciding, who the best team in the country, who the best teams are, especially as far as seeding goes in the NCAA tournament?
We seem to be going gradually, but unmistakably toward a system where it's all about, as Jay Billis famously says, who'd you play and who'd you beat? And we can recognize that there are teams out there that are, really good and can definitely cause a problem for you if you draw them in the bracket, but they just haven't put together the wins. I think of a team like Arkansas, for example. Obviously they're talented and they can beat you, but they will be seeded according to what they've done on the court in terms of wins and losses, and that's the bargain we enter into, and I think that's basically fair. I don't think that a team should be seeded higher because they're strong and shown that way at KenPom. You've got to get it done on the court. So I think that's pretty much the way to go.
Visiting with John Gasaway from ESPN, and we look at KU. K-State certainly locally is having a phenomenal year. Missouri having a phenomenal year compared to where they were a year ago. What makes a national championship team to you? As we watch these teams this week jockey for position and try to get the number 1, number 2, number 3 seeds, and we look at teams that everybody will have their brackets Sunday night and on into Monday, and pick a national championship team. What's the makeup of a national championship team to you?
People get wrapped up in you have to be ranked, such and such on both offense and defense. And I've, within reason, I've never gone down that path. I'd rather know how are you ranked, period. How strong are you overall as a basketball team? And however you get that done, great. So there are a few isolated examples in the past where a team is just all defense and not much offense. And no, I mean that's probably not built to win in March. You've got to have some level of balance. I do worry about, you mentioned Gonzaga, I do worry about them from a defensive standpoint for the first time in many years. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mark Few, year in and year out for a decade has had, for lack of a better technical basketball term, really big guys in the paint who just make life miserable for you. They don't have that. I mean, Drew Timme is a scorer par excellence, and he's great. But they are not particularly robust in terms of defending the rim. So that's a change this year. And as I say this, of course, they just look fantastic at the WCC tournament. So maybe they'll prove this reservation wrong. But I'm just looking for the team that gets the job done, and whether it's offense or defense, as long as you've got the proven results, maybe you can win it all.
Yeah, I was not happy about Gonzaga's performance last night just because I was excited to sit down. Kids are asleep. All right, let me put on the TV. Let me get, Gonzaga, St. Mary's. Oral Roberts disappointed me in how awesome they were last night. It's like, come on, be a little worse so we can have a little drama here. I've been waiting for these games. I've been waiting for this 8 o'clock window most of the night. And the NKU win was cool, and it was good for them to get back. And Darren Horn, a guy who's been there before. And then, Fairleigh Dickinson and Merrimack. While it was a closer game, it didn't have the real drama connected to it because Fairleigh Dickinson was already going to the NCAA tournament. So shame on you, Gonzaga and Oral Roberts, for your performance last night.
No, you'll be in good shape late when everybody's asleep tonight. Yeah. Oklahoma State playing for its tournament life. There's nothing not to like there. And if you stay up real late, hey, Arizona State's doing the same thing. So good times tonight.
That's exactly right. John Gasaway is our guest from ESPN. A couple of the teams that you have that I think are interesting heading into these conference tournaments, UCLA and Tennessee, a couple of teams that are there as well. Ziegler, we know, is out for the season. Jalen Clark, I think we're seeing Mick Cronin be purposely vague on the lower leg injury, which certainly not to speculate, although I'm going to. It certainly looked like an Achilles injury. I really hope it's not for Jalen Clark. But he's purposely vague because I think we've seen the committee in the past take a team down a seed or two. How much does that impact or simply maybe just strip the opportunity from Tennessee and UCLA to be there in Houston and cutting down the nets?
Yeah, two really different paths to be selected in John Gasaway's Magic 8 because, Tennessee, you can't, swing a cat at their schedule without bumping into yet another game they lost on a spectacular buzzer beater. I mean, the entire SEC got into the NCAA tournament by beating Tennessee. I mean, the Volunteers stay great in the net all season long, rightfully so. They're good at Ken Pom too, and beating them looks great. It helps your resume a lot, and everybody beat them. So a little bit of a weird circumstance. They, of course, are the one similarity with UCLA. They nothing vague about knowing they are missing Zakai Ziegler and won't have him, and that's a hit. But they just defend, and if they're hitting their shots, they can be really tough to beat. And then UCLA, I'm not sure that I hope that they get Clark. I hope that everybody is healthy and whole, gets to play. But even if they're down a guy, and if that guy is not named either Jaquez or Campbell, I'm not sure it really makes as much difference as we immediately think it does, or as the committee may think. UCLA was just head and shoulders the best team in the Pac-12, and I mean, let's not complicate it. I mean, they were 18-2. You don't need too many advanced stats, so they've got some room to lose a non-Campbell or Jaquez player and still be really, really good. I'm definitely keeping a close eye on the Bruins. So one of the strongest teams we've seen in the Pac-12 in many a year.
Because Mizzou may face off against Alabama on Saturday if they beat what is, I'm assuming, going to be Tennessee on Friday. The efficiency margin, the possessions per 40, the points per possession, offense, defense, things like that. Efficiency margin is I really like the metric. How much do you weigh in the way the team is playing now? And I mentioned that I'm assuming if Missouri beats Tennessee that they'll play Alabama on Saturday. Alabama's first 14 SEC games, like you right here, they're plus .29. Last four, they're just plus .01. Is that a team that's maybe opponent related, that they're playing better teams? Is it an indication of a team that's maybe heading in the wrong direction, or an indication of a team that maybe something's going on behind the scenes and distractions that are there? But Alabama looks different now than they did at certain points this season.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely look different, and I'm not privy to the inside story of why that is, or if there is an inside story of why that is. But Alabama looks different, and maybe that's an opportunity for the teams on that side of the bracket. But Missouri is an excellent example of what we were talking about earlier. Their wins are fantastic, and they'll be seeded accordingly. Now, in terms of, possession by possession, Missouri was actually outscored in SEC play this year, and historically, that's a big red flag. Stay away from this team. With picking your NCAA bracket, their opponents scored more points than they did, but just a stellar resume, and they will be seeded accordingly. And again, I think that's correct. Missouri won those games. More credit to them, and let's see what they can get done. But particularly on defense, it's been kind of an adventure for the Tigers.
Yeah, one of those teams that beat Tennessee on a buzzer beater.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Big
it was a great buzzer beater. I mean,
it absolutely was
a beautiful clip.
It absolutely was. The story that I was we were out at basketball practice with my son, and we're at a basketball game, and we're driving back, and the Missouri game's on, and I'm listening to it on the radio, and it's getting down to the final seconds, and I pull over into some random street on residential street, and I park, and my wife goes, "Did you know you pulled into this wrong street?" I said, "Yes, honey, look at the phone. Missouri's down." And then me and my son just go crazy. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Now we can drive home, honey. Now we're good to go." I just wanted to see that because I had it on DVR, but I couldn't just stop, and wait to see what it looked like in person. Last one for you, John Gasaway from ESPN. A team like Kansas State that's got 2 scores in Noel and Keontae Johnson. How far can that carry a team in the NCAA tournament? 2 guys that can really fill it up.
Yeah, the Wildcats have, gotten it done all season long. I mean, to survive in the Big 12, there are no counterfeit teams, and they just do what's necessary. The only thing I'm interested in or looking at is maybe it's the first year coach good luck, but teams in the Big 12 they were terrible at shooting threes against Kansas State, and that tends to be something that's largely outside of the control of the defense in question. So other than that, just a beautiful record. Obviously getting the job done, doing fine in terms of making their shots and forcing misses, many of which are threes. So this is a great situation that they've played themselves into that I'm not sure too many people expected in the preseason, and full credit to the Wildcats. They're about to get a beautiful seed.
Yeah, I believe in the best 3-point defense is to not let them shoot one. There you go. So
there you go.
There's your 3-point defense. John Gasaway from ESPN. Real quick, who do you have an early favorite for cutting down the nets in Houston?
I do. Well, my editor will make me pick a Final Four once I see a bracket.
Right.
But we've hit most of the 8 teams that I selected, and I'm definitely taking long looks at the likes of Houston and UCLA. I think they are tough teams.
All right, we'll see what happens. John Gasaway from ESPN. John, great stuff. Really enjoyed the time and appreciate the time and enjoy the work at ESPN and on your Twitter as well. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, and enjoy the basketball over the next month.
Yes, will do. Thank you for having me.
All right, John Gasaway from ESPN, and I mentioned the Twitter handle. You can go there and check all that stuff out that he has on Twitter, and it's easy. It's at John Gasaway, and he has the efficiency margin that's there, all the different teams and all these conferences. And as he mentioned, you look at the SEC, and Mizzou has an actual negative efficiency margin, which means that the teams are outscoring them in points per possession. Missouri's at 1.09. Opponents are at 1.10. That is what you would call a negative, whereas Kansas State is plus 0.03, Kansas plus 0.03. The interesting part about the Big 12 is that from Texas to West Virginia, Texas is plus 0.05, and West Virginia is the 7th-ranked team in this at 0.00. They are even. So from number 1 to number 7 is a difference of 0.05, and you are not going to see that in many other conferences where there is that jumbled of teams there that are just really balanced good. And it's an interesting line. He said the Big 12 is a bubble team's dream because you got opportunities there. You got opportunities, and certainly tonight as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Mick Shaffer will join us coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. We head up until 2 o'clock. More Zone right after this. It's Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So check your bags. Make sure you've declared your sausage. That's my lesson of the week.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thank you to John Gasaway from ESPN joining us. Breaking down some college basketball. The ACC tournament going on right now. Wake Forest is up by 12 on Syracuse, if you were wondering. Sorry, friend. Also, spoiler alert if you're recording it to watch later.
If you're recording Syracuse Wake Forest.
Also, your show doesn't start till 2. Why would you be recording it? It's already in the second
I
half.
mean specifically Sarin.
That's what I said.
Oh,
Sorry,
interesting.
Sarin.
Okay, I was thinking you were apologizing to anyone who might be recording this game in the larger Kansas City area, and I just thought, man,
that would be odd.
You're being thoughtful for that group of people, but I have to imagine it's a pretty small group.
Yeah, very, very small group. Very small group. Our championship, coverage, live coverage of the Big 12 tournament, Big 12 Championship, brought to you by Barstool Sportsbook inside Hollywood Casino, Greenlight Dispensary, Jay Rieger and Company, CBD American Shaman, and Miller Lite. We got Fan Fest going on this weekend. We'll have live listen-ins going on throughout the tournament. March Madness rolling on, and should let you know that live at 810WHB.com is the Bracket Challenge. So, brackets aren't out yet, but you can go there, sign up for the Bracket Challenge. Go to 810WHB.com, click on the Bracket Challenge icon, get signed up so you're ready to go for when the brackets are released. You can just simply go there, fill out your bracket, don't have to worry about all the signing up. Incredible prizes. You get autographed Chiefs gear, Sporting KC memorabilia, flat screen TV, restaurant, gift cards, and much more by participating in the 810 Bracket Challenge. And you can also run your own office and friend bracket challenge within 810's bracket challenge. So you can have your cool prizes you may do with your friends, and then also you're eligible to win the prizes that we are giving away at 810WHB.com. It's brought to you by Twin Peaks, Robert Brogdon, Buick GMC, and Olathe Kia, Smoke and Fire, and Hy-Vee. So make sure you go and check all that stuff out. We'll be down at Rally House tomorrow, downtown, right across from T-Mobile. And after our show is over, Josh will then be right on stage. He will you will be escorted by security.
I would like that.
Directly from Rally House as soon as the show is over at about 12:30 or so, or maybe a little bit before that, because network coverage of KU and I'm guessing West Virginia, will start at 12:30. And they will take you. It'll be like they'll put a hood over you.
Yes.
And they'll quickly escort you out because you don't want to be mobbed by the thousands of fans that are waiting for you to then be there signing autographs and everything like that.
Yeah, I love to give the little hand up, little. Sorry, I got it. Sorry, I got to get to a meeting.
Sorry, kid, I can only sign Pinnacle cards. I cannot. Sorry about the tops, but you get me a Pinnacle card, I will gladly sign that. But nothing I can do there, buddy.
I will.
Sorry,
you know what,
son.
If you ask, I will sign your baby. If you find me at P&L this week.
Sorry, son. I only sign autographs for kids with hot moms. So
that's Mick's rule.
Also, Marcus Allen. Although we were by ourselves, so how does he even know?
Seems insulting for no reason.
Yeah. You don't know anything about me. You know nothing about me and my family, sir.
Maybe that was the problem.
It just so happened that while he was walking to the cafeteria with many more people there, a couple of autographs that were signed may or may not had moms. I don't know. It could be
that
coincidental.
movie Mars Needs Moms?
Could be coincidental.
Conrad, I'm going to need Marcus Needs Moms. I'm going to need that momentarily.
All right, 913-912-4810. John Gasaway, his 8 teams that he has to win the national championship. Alabama is alphabetical order. Alabama, UConn, Houston, KU, Marquette, Purdue, Tennessee, UCLA. And at the end, when I asked him, do you have an early favorite? Bracket's not out. When the bracket's out, obviously he will have to make a prediction for ESPN. Everybody there will have a bracket and a prediction.
It'd be so weird if he was like, nope, not doing a bracket.
Screw you. You can't make me do this. Not going to do it. Wouldn't be prudent. He likes early favorites, Houston and UCLA. I'm surprised by that because most everybody has just... I shouldn't say most everybody. Me. Most everybody that's inside my head, and there's about 20 of us there.
It's crowded.
Has written off and gone UCLA. Has written off UCLA. to make a run in the tournament. Although making a run is such a relative term. Like a 1 seed going to the Elite Eight, is that making a run in the tournament? A 2 seed making the Elite Eight, is that making a run? A 3 seed getting to the Sweet 16, is that making a run? Like some teams would be like, they made a run in the tournament. They got to the second weekend. Yeah, I know. They were the 1 seed. It's not a run. They did less than they were even expected. So do you have to get to at least your seed line to quote unquote make a run?
Make a run. Because that way, if you're a 1 seed and you do get to the Final Four, you've made a run.
You have absolutely made a run. You made a Final Four. There's no debating that. 2 seed in
the Elite Eight makes a run.
I would say that's a run. 3 seed in the Sweet 16, does that count? I think you got to beat the 2. I think you got to be in the Elite Eight if you're a 3 seed.
Yeah, you have to overachieve your seed line.
The 4/5, especially the 5, because you're going to beat a good 12 seed that is an experienced team that is probably not one of the at-large bids of the lower Power 5s or whatever. It's going to be a team from a smaller conference that's just good.
Yeah.
And you're a 5 seed. You're going to play a good team. Then you're going to face off against a 4 seed that's better than you, at least from the resume, or a 13 seed that just beat that 4 seed to get to the next weekend. Is that a run for a 4 or 5 seed to get to the Sweet 16?
There's got to be a 2-game minimum because a 12 seed winning 1 game, that's not a run. You got to have at least 2.
Nope.
I think a run means at least playing in the second weekend, right? I mean, the second week, right? Like that.
Yeah, at minimum, you've got to be in the Sweet 16 for even if you're a UMBC didn't make a run, they had a historic upset.
That's right.
They made a run for a 16 seed.
Nah, they had
It's not a run.
Upset.
It was a huge step. Look, it was a huge step for college basketball and for humanity. But I don't think it could be a run. Florida Gulf Coast, they made the 16.
They made a run as a 15 seed.
As a 15 seed, you win 2 games. That's a run. Oral Roberts, that's a run.
Yep, absolutely. You get to the Sweet 16 as a 15 seed, you have made a run. I even think like a 7-10. If you're an 8, 9, 7, 10, and you're in the Sweet 16, that's a run because you beat a 2 or a 1. Or K-State, you beat a 16, but then they went and beat UK to make the Elite Eight. So K-State,
that's a run.
Even though absolutely, an 8 seed in the Sweet 16 or in the Elite Eight, I don't care how they got there. If it's a 16 seed and a 13 seed, if they had to beat a 9, a 16, and a 13 to play in the Elite Eight, don't care how you got there. A texter, nope, not even going to answer that because you're just a jerk.
Oh no.
You can imagine what the text says. Did Norfolk make a run? No! Got to be in the second weekend to make a run. They just had a historic, maybe the greatest upset in NCAA history.
They just had an upset that a lot of people probably saw coming.
They beat a national championship team that year. That, had they not won that game, the team they beat probably wins the national championship, right? Isn't that what most people have said?
That's what most people said. St. Peter's, obviously a historic run for St. Peter's, right? Because they were an Elite Eight team.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a historic run when you overachieve that far. North Carolina, an incredible run.
Yes, absolutely.
Not historic, but incredible.
But they made a national championship.
Huge.
Wichita State,
that's
when
absolutely
they made the
a
Final
run.
Four, was absolutely like making the Final
run.
Four. I don't really care if you're a 1 seed or not. In making the Final Four, you've made a run. You
okay,
made a run in the tournament.
This is the example this is where we're gonna be able to cut some teams out of the run category. What about Houston last year? Houston was a 5 seed. They won their first game over UAB. They beat Illinois, the 4 seed, and they beat Arizona, the 1.
They were in the Elite Eight, right?
But then they got bounced by Villanova.
By like 4 or 5. That's a run. I think
that's
Houston made a run.
Okay, that's a run. I think Elite Eight almost certainly means a run if you're
unless you're
less
a 1
than
or
a
2.
3 seed.
Yeah, I think if you're a 4 or below, Elite Eight is absolutely a run. 1 or a 2 Elite Eight, not a run. Anybody that gets to the Final Four, no matter what seed, you've made a run to the tournament. You've got to the Final Four. I mean, that's
a run. Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
You've won your region.
But it's a historic run, a great run, an incredible run.
Yeah, like VCU had a historic run.
That's
from
a historic
play-in
run
to Final Four. Butler had a couple of runs.
A couple of great runs, I would say, for Butler. I don't know why those are the adjectives I'm choosing, but I really feel like it's important.
Tex says, sorry, to Norfolk, and then said, I'll be fair, what about Northern Iowa? I think UNI, because they got to the Sweet 16 and they beat a big school like Kansas in the second round.
Definitely a run.
Yeah, it's a run.
Definitely a run, no question.
But again, if you're
a modifier,
if you're like a 15, if let's go this 8 and below, Sweet 16 is a run. So 8, 9, that means you beat a 1 seed more than likely. 7-10, it means you beat a 2 seed.
Yep.
More than likely.
Yep.
11 seed, you had to beat a 6 and a 3.
Yep.
Probably. 12, you beat a 5 and a 4. If we're just going by seed line. 13,
No, I like this.
you beat a 4 and a 5. On down the line, anything 8 and below Sweet 16, you've made a run.
You've made a run. I think we've got at least one rule
Excuse me,
that I feel
7.
good about.
I said 8, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because 7, 10. So, because 7, 10, because 7, you're beating a 2.
I
Sorry.
already etched it in stone,
I
man.
apologize.
I can't. There's no delete button on a stone tablet.
I don't know why I wasn't including a 7 that would have to beat a 15 seed. Or beat a 2 seed. Sorry, I'm just so used to being 2 seeds.
We're so used to 15 seeds advancing.
Stabbed myself in the back. I think 7 and below, because 7, 10, winner of that one goes and you have to play a 2 seed.
Yeah, but a 6 seed would just beat the 11 and the 3. That's not good enough.
Nope, not good enough. Not
I'm
good
with
enough.
you. I'm
not
with
good
you.
enough because you're playing a 3, you're not playing a 2. Okay? Sometimes there's a big difference between the 2 and the 3. No, it's
I think that's right.
because you're better than the 7 and you're playing a worse team than the 2.
Mm-hmm. I think we've solved the terminology. Now I'll work on a style book for us here, and then I think we could just sort of start enforcing this across media. Really, like when we start seeing people use the phrase, "Oh boy, it's just the biggest crutch in history." Like we can play this game sometime after the bracket's out. Of just like pick one of the small conference teams that I've certainly never watched play on television this year, and I could definitely give you a scouting report. This might be a Lebitard bit that I'm stealing. I can't remember. I could definitely give you a scouting report on last year's Cal State Fullerton team if necessary, knowing nothing else about them. And I think you can always end one of those off the top of your head Charles Barkley scouting reports. No offense, but like you know what I mean. And end it with. And I think they could make a run into the tournament. Maybe even a deep run in the tournament.
I would, in a previous broadcasting sports radio life, I would host the Selection Sunday show. So after the bracket comes out, then boom, we're on the air for like 3 or 4 hours just talking about it, teams and things like that. And we would always do a bit where randomly we would throw a team out and you had to give like fake analysis, right? And randomly, a team that got thrown to me, Loyola Chicago.
Oh!
And I went, look, this is a team that you better expect him to be playing in the second week. Porter Moser, he can coach anywhere in the country. This is a guy that's going to have a big name for himself. Look, they play great defense. They are really well coached, skilled players. And the fact that they're in this position, I think they're a little underseeded. If this team is in the second weekend, in fact, if this team is in San Antonio,
wow,
I wouldn't be surprised. Loyola Chicago, you'd better keep an eye on them. Put them in your bracket. That's an upset special, and I don't know if they lose before they get to San Antonio. I really love this team. Totally made up. All
Just
of it.
clip that.
All of it was totally made. Oh, we did. I'm like, this was not even made up. I told you guys.
I told you.
I gave you the Final Four
They'll
team.
play in a parking lot.
Come on.
They got veteran guard play, probably.
I think Porter Moser is probably, he should coach at like Oklahoma or something. You know? If he coaches there, he'll be great. Perfect for him.
I love March Madness season, man. Because awesome. So many years in a row, I think my little sister's bracket has vastly outperformed Beards's, and I'm going to try to keep that going.
Beards' little sister's bracket, or just Beards?
My little sister's bracket?
But Beards' little sister bracket.
What did we have? Beards' little sister?
No.
Can we get her bracket?
We could.
Because you said
she's younger than you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you said my little sister's bracket has outperformed Beards' bracket, so you could say Beards'.
Ooh. Okay. So let's
possessive the bracket or possessive his sister?
Let's get. I don't know how Beards feels about the term possessive of his sister. I'm just let him mark that and figure out if he wants to put that in cuts or not. I think we need to have a sister bracket off, and then all of them are going to beat Beards.
Okay.
That's for sure. Beards has lost to both Chloe and a fictional dog. So
can I it's not my sister, but can I use Juliet? Can I use my daughter?
Yes.
Can I just have her like point to teams?
Yes,
absolutely. And then that bracket, great.
Absolutely. We've done that as an on-air bit with Chloe and our chief bracketologist.
Am I allowed to just fill in the ones winning in the first round, or even if she picks a 16, I got to go with that?
Here's the thing. So first of all, what I've learned from Chloe is that you really hope that the 1 seeds have dog mascots, because like Gonzaga advancing has been a pretty good bet, right? And so she's Bulldogs. Okay, cool. The other thing is that the real reason you cannot give any guidance whatsoever is because it makes it so much more embarrassing when Beards loses. In that, because Chloe had the I think she might have had like FAU or something. I don't know. There was some like random Florida school that she had advancing. It wasn't Gulf. I don't think it was Florida Gulf Coast.
Florida Gulf Coast.
Although she might have had the Peacocks advancing. Now that I think about it, that might have St. Peter's might have been a big one for her.
I think that's right. I think I remember.
I think it was that, and then she all of a sudden wiped the floor with all these other losers that didn't believe in the Peacocks.
I had Kentucky in the Final Four, I think.
I think I might have too. It was not a great year for trying.
May have had Kentucky players on my player pool. That didn't help either.
Should have had some peacocks.
I should have. I should have been. I'm a peacock. Peacock. You gotta let me fly.
Gotta let me fly.
Yeah. So I can't be like, so what do you think of this team? Houston? Yeah. Or Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
I think, yuck. Gross. What Corpus Christi?
Or Corpus Christi. Who likes Christies?
I think you've
They're
got
like the Karens of schools.
Corpus Christi mascot. Let's find out.
Oh, yeah,
here.
you do have to give the mascot then.
Including the mascot's really important.
Don't you like Cougars? We all do, honey. Houston.
You go Houston Cougars versus... Oh, boy. What on earth? Sorry, they didn't have a mascot for a year, and then in May 2022, they unveiled a mascot and maybe kept the name? There might have been some issues with the previous iteration of Izzy, according to this story that I'm reading on this Corpus Christi news site. Can I please get what the name of the actual freaking team is? Islanders. They're the Islanders.
But here's the issue that I may run into. If I go... Houston Cougars or the Kennesaw State Penguins.
See, that's
screwed. Done.
That happens
Is it
sometimes.
Kennesaw State? Aren't they the Penguins?
Youngstown State is the Penguins.
Youngstown, damn it.
My Penguin knowledge, unmatched.
But Youngstown State is in it too, right? Didn't they win their conference tournament? I thought they did.
They might have. They were playing definitely
Maybe
recently
they didn't.
and playing meaningful basketball.
Maybe they played in the semis, or maybe they played in the quarters.
They were involved in one of those games we were talking about where we couldn't get all the teams right, and shockingly, I still can't remember where all of those teams actually
ended up.
That's right.
They were involved in the game where...
They beat Detroit Mercy.
Yep, they were involved in the game in which Antoine Davis was 3 points shy of breaking the record. That's what it was. But they didn't win their conference tournament.
They did lose the Horizon League tournament.
Yep.
They were the 1 seed, though. Lost to Northern Kentucky.
And Northern Kentucky then
Northern
won.
Kentucky Norse.
Norse, yep, the Norse.
I would not have picked the Norse over the Penguins.
I have a feeling she would pick Northern Kentucky over the team they're playing. That would be a tough one.
It's all about, sometimes the presentation is a part of it. But
it's just
that's
familiarity.
Right.
Like
Kentucky, I know that.
Northern Kentucky or
Penguins, though.
Missouri. Damn it.
Wow.
Can I fill it in Missouri no matter what for her? No, I can't. Of course.
No.
Because if she, because come on. I mean, if she.
It's child abuse, Jason.
But here's the thing. But if she gets it right, if she has the upset and gets it right,
Yes.
I feel dumb for.
Exactly. You gotta let them go sometimes.
You gotta let them be. You gotta let your kids go and make mistakes on their own.
That's exactly
You
right.
have
And
to let
sometimes
them
those mistakes
live
are
their-
a long tournament run for a team called the Peacocks, and all of a sudden they beat Beards.
Last time I gave advice to somebody on a tournament bracket. Last time I've ever done it. 2010?
Okay.
I think it was 2010. So the NCAA tournament of 2010. One of my friends, she said, "Hey, will you look at my Final Four teams and see? I got UConn and these other teams." I'm like, UConn just won 5 games in 5 days in the Big East tournament to get to the tournament.
They were an 8 or a 9 that year, right?
They've had, no, that was in 2014. That UConn team that ended up going through with Kimba.
That was 2011.
2011, that's what it was.
Okay.
2011, because they then beat UK in the championship game after beating Butler. So I'm like, no, UConn, they just made a run. It was kind of a Cinderella. They're not going to go and win 4 games in a row. I would take UConn out of the Final Four. Last time I gave advice to anybody in a bracket because she probably would have won whatever pool she was in at that time. So I'm like, yeah, I apologize, but you asked for my advice. You didn't have to take it.
A dartboard with your face on it in our office now.
You didn't have to take it. Texas, am I the only one when I hear Kennesaw State? I think of the guy who banned the Black Sox from baseball. Yeah, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the first ever commissioner.
What a pull.
First ever commissioner of Major League Baseball.
Holy crap.
Yeah. I joked about, people are talking about the pitch clock ruining baseball, and it's awful, that somebody put out a newspaper article from 1901.
Yes, I saw this. I read this.
That they are instituting a pitch clock, that a pitcher has 20 seconds to release the ball from when he has. Like, wow, they put a pitch. And that tweet, I was like, Ban Johnson is ruining baseball. I am tired of Ban Johnson and his damn rules. Now the catcher has to be within 10 feet of home plate.
They're ruining baseball.
Why can't he stand in the dugout like he does sometimes? To hell with Ban Johnson. Get him out of here.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly. and at Sports Radio 810. You're in the zone.
To figure out if you're better than a 12-year-old who's never watched college basketball. She beat Beards last year. That is not a joke.
And not a surprise either.
Hand to God, that is not a joke.
Not
and
a surprise.
Beards was actually trying to pick these games.
My strategy
Go ahead,
last
Beards, defend
year
yourself.
was I went more upsets kind of in the first few rounds, and I have scaled back on that a lot this year. Less upsets.
Yeah, I think she picked all the dog mascots, though, so I'm not sure that's a great excuse for you.
No, it is.
With Jason Anderson.
It was bad, but I have updated my strategy this year, and hopefully this time I can beat a 12-year-old in a bracket challenge.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thankfully, you added that qualifier there at the end there, buddy.
I'm so glad we gave him the space to just sit in that. I think it might have just been that we were on remote and it was a delay, but either way.
Yeah, it was all that.
Somebody pointing out that Juliet, she is little man's sister, so she is a sister to Everett. So there you go.
Done.
She's now included. Who else is included is Mick Shaffer. He'll be joining us from downtown. Live coverage of the Big 12 tournament brought to you by Barstool Sportsbook inside Hollywood Casino, Greenlight Dispensary, Jay Rieger and Company, CBD American Shaman, and Miller Lite. We'll be at Rally House tomorrow, down across from T-Mobile. Getting ready for all of the festivities with the games going on tomorrow. Should also point out, Eddie Lampkin for TCU did not make the trip to KC with TCU, facing off against K-State tomorrow. Should also point out at DraftKings, K-State still plus 120 to win that game for the time being. Just saying. Mick Shaffer next.
You could win 2 tickets to the...
This SportsCenter is brought to you by the University of St. Mary. Become an influential leader with the University of St. Mary MBA. Ranked as the most affordable online business school, a St. Mary MBA offers an exceptional return on investment. stmary.edu/MBA for more information. The Big 12 tournament is here, but TCU will be without center Eddie Lampkin Jr. He stepped away from the team to deal with personal matters, per reports, and did not travel with the team to Kansas City. When it tips off tonight, the 8-9 and the, what would that be, 6-7? I'm good at counting. That'll all be going on at the T-Mobile Center with the 10. Did I not say the 10 yet? 7, 8, 9, 10 will all play tonight. I had the bracket open earlier, but that's since disappeared. Hopefully we'll get more, better information with Mick Shaffer live from the P&L. He joins us next in the Zone, as long as he can get that pesky door open. Find out next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
This is going to be so stupid, but here we go.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so we got ACC tournament action going on. Wake Forest, the 9 seed, against Syracuse, the 8 seed. It is tied at 74 with about 20 seconds to go. Syracuse has the ball. We're not allowed to do play-by-play. Not even a beg for forgiveness play-by-play.
I have some play-by-play we can give.
Yeah, please.
Mick Shaffer is in the door. He will join us momentarily live from the KC Live District at Power and Light.
5 seconds to go. Wake Forest now has the ball. Syracuse missed a 3. Wake Forest, 3 in the air. Buckets! Sorry. 0.2 remaining, and Wake Forest is now up 3. I don't think Jim Boeheim wanted the fadeaway three-pointer with still 6 seconds on the shot clock to be the shot that his player took.
He'll probably be cool about it.
That bounced off the front of the iron and backboard, one of those ricochet front iron back from the side. It was from the wing. So iron backboard, and then Wake Forest got the ball, got out in transition, and then hit a 3. They are up 77-74. With 0.2 left, this has to be a tipped 3. You cannot catch and shoot. Mick Shaffer, who always good at catching and shooting. The guy is spot up. He'll have his feet ready to go. Transition, you know he's not going to the bucket. You're fading to the three-point line, right? If there's a 3-minute transition, you get the ball to the middle, you're fading to the three-point line. You're not cutting to the basket, right, Mick?
No, I'm body seeking.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Looking to get to the line.
That was my game. Look, you grew up in Caldwell, Kansas, and not long after the three-point line was initiated, that was, it was Bill Self's fool's gold right there, okay? You didn't take threes. It was all about the mid-range game. It was all about the post-up. It was all about getting to the rim, getting fouled, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah, threes were discouraged, and then I got to college. I'm like, I'm not really a good three-point shooter. And I'm like 6'2" in the program, 6'1" in real life, and I'm not – I'm just kind of average shooting the ball, and then that's why I'm not playing. Okay, I got it. I got it now. But hey, from 15 feet, Coach, I'm lethal.
It turns out I didn't play defense. That's why I didn't play. I could shoot the rock. I could shoot the hell out of the ball. Or as Mateen Cleaves one time said at a halftime, I could shoot the blood out of the basketball. But basketballs don't have blood. Anyway, this team is playing really well. He didn't have much commentating after that. They tried with Mateen Cleaves. They are shooting the blood out of the basketball. Well, basketballs don't have blood, but they are playing really well. Thanks, Mateen. That's the only thing I could do. I was fading the three-point line. If you saw me in transition, do not think that you're going to jump stop free throw line and drop that thing at the block. I am fading to the three-point line, and don't expect me to come in and get an offensive rebound either.
My senior year, I averaged 22 points a game, and I made 21 threes. And I think we played 21 games. I had 1 3 per game.
Well, there
on
you
average.
Go. See?
I
all-around
didn't
player.
Shoot him much.
All-around player.
Man, just
didn't miss free throws.
Me that elbow, the offense ran the flex, right?
Yes.
The elbow jumper, and then penetrate, get to the line, make some free throws, elongate that game. That's how you get to 22 a game, boys.
Oh, we had the motion offense, 2 bigs on the block, 3 traditional wings, a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, and just like, I'm going to come V-cut, you're going to screen away, this guy's going to cut, we're going to throw the ball, we're going to then swing it to backside out of our transition offense, and then get it into the big man on the block, but also the big man flashing to the elbow. Oh, yeah, shooting threes only if we set up a specific play. I'll let you shoot a 3, but we're going to call that play. for you to come in and shoot that three. Not me though. You know,
we were
I wasn't
very close
I wasn't
to
playing.
we were very close to Normandale basketball.
There you go.
With
that
the
swinging
Hoosiers,
gate.
basically. 5 passes before you shoot. I remember I got to school and I was roommates with a kid from Oklahoma, where they play just up and down basketball, kind of basketball we see now, right? Just tons of possessions. I mean, you're even close to open, you're jacking it up, lots of transition. And I popped in my tape, and he's like, "Wait, what is this? What is going on? I thought you averaged a lot of points." I did. You just got to watch the whole game, and I make a lot of free throws. And,
money from the line.
He's like, "Oh my God, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to watch." I'm like, "I know." All right, thank you. We won a lot of games this way, boring. Yeah.
Imagine playing it. Okay, yeah. No, that's
exactly.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to play. Too. You know, it's.
Hey, do you know what was hard to watch? This was an ordeal getting into the tiny little studio you have here at McFadden's. Poor Dylan, man. What a trooper. I mean, he was jiggling that key. Of all the janky things at 810, the passcode, the top of the stairs.
By the way, I did not say that. That is Mick Shaffer that said that.
Of all the janky things at 810, Josh Briscoe's employment, all those things. I mean, this was, the key, you have to, Josh, right? You have to hold your tongue right, basically. You got to be standing on your head.
Yeah.
You jiggle it, you pull it in, but pull it out, push it back in, kind of say a prayer. I bet he tried it 6,000 times. And he has these jackal security guards out here just doing play-by-play and harassing him. I was getting so mad. Dylan is the most patient dude, and he was getting frustrated. But I told him later, I'm like, I would have at least told those guys to shut the H up, right?
How were they harassing him, and were they just making fun of him the whole time?
I'm like, this guy over here has been doing this for 10 minutes, man. Or like, man, you just hire a locksmith at this point, man.
Was Dickie V one of the security guards? What was that?
Oh,
no,
he's a PTP or prime time.
No, they were on him.
Can't think of the P
finally,
word.
I swear
Lock
to God,
picker.
They got one of the main security guys over here who apparently can do it in his sleep. He does it the first time. And I'm
really?
Like, oh my God! Dylan just throws his head back. I felt so bad. He's like, I got it yesterday, and so we got in. That was an experience right there.
How did Dylan feel when the security guard comes up and in the first try opens that thing up? Was he feeling good about himself?
Well, it wasn't one of the same jackals. It was
I know,
the
but
head
like
guy.
a different guy, right? Just walks up and was like, "Hey, got that."
He was Dylan's cool, right?
He's
he
great.
Was thankful,
He's a peach.
Relieved, and I'm like, I told him later, I'm like, I can't. I would have jacked, at least tried to jack one of those guys. I was so mad at them, and I honestly should have said something. I was just ignoring him, and I didn't know they may be buddies of him. They weren't. And so we walk in. There's a bottle of Bullet Bourbon half drank in there, and one of the security guys is like, "Hey man, you need that right now. You should take a shot of that right now." Pouring it. Dylan's like, "I know."
He's so nice.
I'm way out of practice, but I'm going to see if I can get it on my first try tomorrow, or at least I'll start like a little stopwatch on my phone and just see how long I can do it.
Here's the problem. There's multiple keys that work in there, but like one works better than the other, and so he was trying all sorts of them, and it was first try. It was like when you're trying forever to open the 2-liter, and your little brother comes in and opens. I loosened that for you.
Totally loosened.
That's what I said.
You.
Like, you loosen that for him.
Dude, my wife gets so annoyed that she'll try to do like with the electronics, like with TV or something. She's like, "It's not working. I don't know what's going on. Can you do this?" And I come over and I press the button and it works. She's like, "I swear to you, I did that 10 times." I'm like, "I don't know. I didn't want." She's like, "This happens so often, and it is so annoying because next time I'm going to video it. Next time I'm going to video it of me trying to, so when you walk in and do it, it is not a magic touch. I don't know what the hell happened. Get out of the room." I thought I helped you.
I came in and helped.
Thought I helped
How did I get in trouble for helping?
Love you.
I keep turning in the Jerry Seinfeld.
I don't know why.
I don't know what
What's the deal with the ceiling fans?
With this remote.
What's the deal with remotes? They aren't on location, but remote location is Mick Shaffer.
I wish Dylan. We have some headsets here. I wish he was in here to talk about it. It was quite an ordeal. He's outside now. I don't know if he smokes, but hopefully he's just burning one right now. just because it was.
A
I
lung
watched it for
dart
about
after
10 minutes.
another, just back-to-back lung darts, just to get over what just happened.
I watched him for about 10 minutes. I think he was doing about 10 minutes before that.
Oh,
Pamela's
man.
here now. Does she need in?
Make her unlock it. See if she can do that.
Sounds like
I know.
I heard the door.
Pamela, I
open.
should have made you unlock it with a key. Have you ever done it before? For 10 years. She knows how.
See, for 10 years.
You know?
That's a veteran.
For 10 years. Oh, poor Dylan. Poor Dylan. But you know what? Dylan's been doing it for a while. Doesn't mean that you're just going to walk up and pick the right key that's going to work better than the others. You know, if there's multiple keys.
We were about to enter through the other door, which is like above the bar.
That's right.
At
Yeah, you got to
McFadden's.
climb up.
We would
Yeah.
have to like step up on the bar
That would've been
and
amazing.
knock over some of the top shelf stuff to get in there. But I think that it might be nailed shut. I'm not sure. This might have been our only option.
I would have liked Dylan to go grab a chair from somewhere and just start pounding on the glass from the outside to see if that helped you get in.
Well, that was my first comment when I walked up. I'm like, hey, ready to kick this door in, just joking around. And I could tell from his face, like, I should not have made that joke. And then just the hyenas behind him from the peanut gallery kept lobbing insults his way.
You should not have made the joke because was he actually thinking about it? Ooh, no,
yes,
Dylan, I was
so.
joking. I was just joking. Don't, Dylan, stop. Security guards, can you stop him from trying to break the glass right now?
Don't do a DeSosa impression.
He thought about it. He almost did it to
We don't want to vacate those games. Come on, Dylan. Just all you're trying to do is get Mick Shaffer.
We almost had to vacate this hour, actually, when you say it like that.
That's a good point.
Well, that's what I told him, like, because he's calling, I think, the Drake, right? And he's you're trying to get the head of security over here. And I'm like, hey. I'm like, it's fine. I'm like, it's not exact. They don't exactly need me.
It's
right?
just the zone,
it's fine.
Dylan.
Don't worry about it, man.
It's just the zone, and it's just me, right? I mean, there's
Dylan, the 20 minutes you spent trying to get in there, you've now worked the hardest on this show.
And you gave us 20 minutes of content, which I'm sure you're thrilled about.
Which is also something they have yet to do today.
Yeah, I don't have to talk about like the Royals rotation like you guys were earlier.
I know.
Right.
Somehow we got on two different, longer, extended conversations about the Royals, which I'm perfectly fine with, even though there's a lot of college basketball going on. But as Josh Brisco said in the Sports Center, in case people did not hear, tomorrow when K-State matches up against TCU.
Hey, that was the thing I did successfully say in the Sports Center.
That is true.
I
You
forgot
got
about
that
that.
thing
I got
right.
this one done. Jeez, Lord.
At about 8:30 there at T-Mobile, when K-State and TCU tip it off, Eddie Lampkin will not be on the court and is not with TCU. Did not make the trip. Working on he is back in Dallas with a personal issue that he is taking care of. So he did not make the trip to Kansas City with TCU. So Kansas State, and I tweeted this out, Mick. I said at DraftKings they're still plus 120 to win. Is K-State. Surprised that it's still plus 120. They have now moved from they were plus 2 in just the line. They're now plus 1.5 in getting a point and a half, and that's still plus 100. So
those
they're
lines
a
are
point
already out for games tomorrow.
Yep, games tomorrow. They've put lines out. Typically they don't, but only the lines for the games that are already set. So like KU, there's no line for them because you can't just say KU West Virginia. What are they going to do? We'll see.
What would the line for Missouri be? Like there's three
Missouri,
possible teams for them to play.
Just be Missouri, Tennessee. There's no reason to set up a line for anybody else but Mizzou and Tennessee on Friday at 2:30 or whatever. So if you are inclined to go to DraftKings, you can go check that out. I tweeted it out that
I'm on it right now. So if you keep
K-State lost by 14 to TCU, and in 20 minutes, Eddie Lampkin had 17 points. K-State beat TCU by 21. Eddie Lampkin scored 0 points in 18 minutes. He's not, 20 points per game, but he's a pretty vital part to what they do in the paint.
Missouri. What am I doing? I'm in Missouri.
Dude. Yeah, you can't do that. Hey, you want me to do it for you? Just give me your login. That's illegal. We'll just do this transaction right on the air. It's totally illegal to do. That is. That does, like, Missouri, freaking get on it. Because it happens all the time when you're like, oh, yeah, let me go and place this. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm on the other side.
There should be, like, if you live in, like, some of those border counties in Kansas, you get in-state tuition to, like, some of those Missouri schools.
Ooh.
That's what
Not
they should do. They
Mizzou.
should extend that fence to some border counties in Missouri.
Yeah, not Mizzou. You don't even get in-state
Like
to
Jackson.
Mizzou if you live in Missouri.
Right, yeah.
Mizzou's like, no. There's no in-state tuition for anybody.
Hey, politicians, let's just try this one on for size really quick. Jackson County gets sports gambling. Johnson County gets marijuana.
I don't even care about the second one. It's the first one.
I'm just trying to we're expanding both sides a little bit. It's sort of a trade-off.
Right.
We do my $1 billion idea.
Yeah.
Going on State Line Road, and right, just put two buildings across the street from each other, and you have a skywalk back and forth, and then you can stand in Missouri smoking your pot and hold your DraftKings app out over the state line on the walkway and make bets.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. It's not like when you go from from Jackson County to Johnson County, that all of a sudden the one weed that you have just all of a sudden just extinguishes. I can't even light it anymore.
I got it.
I'm in Johnson County. What the hell is wrong with this? It won't light.
You know I'm trying to think of the other instances where these would exist, but there's like a blower above a door that just blasts air down. I know one place where they do it is in like butterfly exhibits and stuff to make sure that you don't take any bugs out with you. There used to be one in some fast food like over at drive-thru.
Josh, by the way, everybody knows about butterfly exhibits that have the blower there so you don't steal butterflies. Okay, everybody knows about this.
Walmart and stuff like that will have it as well.
Do they?
At the front entrance.
But that's the heat, though. That's to give you a heat.
So with that in mind, whatever the process is, we're basically installing an industrial-strength car wash dryer at the halfway point of the skywalk. So twofold. One, weed smell's not getting across the air barrier now.
Great point.
And if you try to walk over to the Kansas side, snuffs out whatever you're smoking. Boom! You're welcome.
You have figured it out. And that is awesome right until either side fixes the problem that they're facing right now.
We need some sort of just demilitarized zone, right? Some neutral area where just both can happen. That's it.
How about this?
State Line Road.
Kansas City.
State Line Road.
Both sides.
Downtown Kansas City.
Give Kansas City, Kansas City, Missouri. That's the DMZ now. That's the safe space. If you go to Overland Park, that's on you. You get out to Grandview, that's on you. But Kansas City's, plural, can unite on this one.
Like the quarantine in The Last of Us.
I still haven't. Are you watching Last of Us?
I am. I'm a couple of episodes behind.
Ooh.
But it's really good. It's really good. Turns out, don't even have to know anything about the video game to like the show.
Nope, they'll bring it to you.
Really good show.
I haven't watched it still.
Loving it.
Don't need more
loving it.
dark TV right now.
But I need to catch up before this Sunday season finale, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I need to watch the previous two that I'm behind so I can watch the season finale live on Selection Sunday. Oh, wait, damn it. So, Mick, I was talking about a quick little look ahead. I'm like, looking at the World Baseball Classic and, when the Royals players are going to play and everything. And I'm like, Pool D is so good with Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico because most of it's location-based. But Pool D, like one of those teams is not going to advance into the knockout round. And I'm like, when does Puerto Rico and Venezuela play? Because then you got Melendez and Salvi and playing each other. I'm like, they play Sunday at 6 o'clock. Well, I won't be doing anything at Sunday at 6 o'clock. I'll totally have the World Baseball Classic on FS1 rolling with Puerto Rico and Venezuela. I think I might be busy at that time, so I won't be watching that. Oh, well.
DVR that thing.
Yeah, I think maybe it'll be on one of the TVs, right?
I have learned I'm late to the party on every sports season now, just living and covering sports in Kansas City, and then I really don't pay attention to college basketball until football season's over, which is mid-February now.
That's right.
And I really don't pay attention to baseball season until basketball season's over, and thanks to Kansas, that can be early April.
I know, but now you got the World Baseball
Classic. Maybe K-State and Mizzou, too.
But typically you wouldn't have to without the World Baseball Classic, so it's like if you're into that, well, there's a number of Royals playing. The U.S. starts on Saturday, so you got Bobby Witt and Brady Singer. They're playing Great Britain.
Explain to me this World Baseball Classic kind of renewed phenomenon, because I thought we laughed that out of the room several years ago. Like, why are we doing this? This is so dumb. Yada yada. It was Bruce Chin can play for half the countries basically. And now it's back.
Well, Nicky Lopez and Vinny Pasquantino are playing for Italy. They play tomorrow at 5 a.m. Tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. I'm DVRing that. In fact, I may wake up at 5 a.m. just to see Lopez and Vinny P on the right side of the infield.
I guess, because I don't have that impulse, and, it hasn't been a big thing. But now it appears you're not the only one. It appears to be a big thing.
I enjoy it because it's more baseball, and the reason I enjoy it is you get the flair of some of the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, the Latin games where it sounds a little bit like a soccer match.
Absolutely.
Where there's music playing. The ambiance is great. And it to me, it sort of emphasizes the different cultures around baseball where there are some baseball players that used to be the unwritten rules, and if you bat flip, I'm going to hurl an object at you that can actually hurt you 90-something miles an hour because my feelings are hurt. So I'm going to actually try to inflict pain on you with an object that can actually kill you, if it hits you in the right spot. I mean, it didn't kill Justin Turner, but damn, that looked awful when he was just leaking. Like, it was like oil leak. It was just streaming out of him for Justin Turner. And you see the flair of how that sort of now is in Major League Baseball. And I always thought it's funny, like, they wanted to enact those rules. Like, wouldn't it be great if, like, a Dominican pitcher, if he gave up a home run and an American just set the bat down, if the next time up they beaned him for not flipping the bat?
Yeah, too
How dare you not have fun?
I like
this. This is my culture.
Yes.
My culture is to have flair and enjoy the game, and you're just going about it like you're wearing a suit and tie. No,
I've
wear
been to
one on the
games.
leg.
I don't think they would do it that way. I don't think they'd be insulted by a guy just got around in the bases.
I know.
But I'm way more I'd be way more interested in those winter ball games and watching those.
Yeah, those are fun
and I have
too.
been to them. Than I am for Who does Great Britain have?
I don't know.
The Royals play them this week.
I know. I bet they're not great.
I'm just imagining like a bunch of like long mustachioed, bare-knuckled guys just out there. I know that's not
the
going to be
Peaky
the case.
Blinders.
Yes, absolutely.
Their uniform is
they're
just
wearing,
Peaky Blinders.
All right,
absolutely.
yeah.
They're wearing those same style hats and everything.
All
and
right,
they
Wayne
get up.
White's going to spin a couple pitches your way.
Oh, hey, we found it. We found an impression that Jason is really bad at.
Awful.
That was upsetting.
Still better than me. Yeah, they get up to the in the box and they just put their cigarette out and they get to first base and the first base coach hands them a glass of whiskey and they just knock it back and here we go.
I'm scrolling pretty fast.
Who does Great Britain have?
I don't recognize any of these dudes. Like, half these guys don't have headshots.
No. Is it just like?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to bring up the exact same thing.
Is it like a relegated soccer team from the Premier League? Like, listen, okay, you're gonna do this. Here's there's a wood bat here, and there's a baseball, and see what happens.
I'm scrolling.
We're back in. Did it work that time? Did you get the work?
In Great Britain? Oh, did somebody get through the door? Dylan get in the door?
No, it was Pamela this time.
Okay, I'm worried about Dylan just in general.
I want to see you just slay this dragon, Dylan. I want to next time come back, give him the keys, and do it.
Yeah, I'm.
Not a lot of household names here.
Oh, Trace Thompson. There you go. I found one.
He's playing for Great Britain.
Yeah,
hey, they have Anthony Simons. Oops, sorry, Anthony Seymour.
It would be. What if they did have Anthony Simons
that
there?
would be pretty surprising. And so, and again, I know that everybody's kind of figuring out who you can play for, and that's all part of it. But Anthony Seymour, whose name I just clicked because I thought it was funny that his name wasn't Anthony Simons, he was born in the Bahamas.
We're just gonna call him Penny. Yeah,
he went to high school in Florida.
Guys, yeah, a lot of times the Caribbean guys, and there's a lot of British Isles down there, right?
Sure, that's a good point.
The old Orioles pitcher, I think, he get knighted, something like that.
Like, does the Thompson family, do they have dual citizenship to Great Britain? Like, was Michael Thompson born in Is he from there? Can Clay play for Team England in the Olympics?
I think it's just like, you know what? Thompson is a very British name. Go ahead.
What if we see Clay Thompson playing for England in the Olympics? Oh, yeah, you don't put me on Team USA? Fine, I'm going to go play for Great Britain.
I'm going to play with Penny Seymour.
I'm trying to find a Orioles pitcher who was knighted, and I just keep finding Orioles pitchers whose last name is Knight. So, it's a work in progress.
Well, I can see him. Big old dude, bald head. Oh, man. Maybe not knighted, but was...
Well, now I have found someone whose last name is Pitcher who was knighted. That's not helpful either.
Maybe he played for Great Britain or something like that in the World Baseball Classic. There's some sort of connection there.
Yeah.
If you say his name, I'll know it.
So now that we got that out of the way, tomorrow morning, 5 a.m., Nicky Lopez and Vinny Pasquantino. I don't actually think it's on TV anywhere here. I'm not sure. I don't really think it is. Melendez plays Saturday at 11 a.m. for Puerto Rico. And then 6 o'clock, Salvi playing for Venezuela against the Dominican Republic. That's a good one. 6 o'clock, FS1 on Saturday, Venezuela versus the Dominican.
I'm going to try to get there, man. I'm going to try to have your type of excitement, but I'm not there yet. I'm more excited for these playing games than I had the Big 12 championship.
I know, right? I'm with you. Let's talk about that a little bit on the other side of the break. We'll take a time out. Mick Shaffer hanging out with us. He is downtown because the game's getting underway in about 4 hours from now, 4.5 hours. Live coverage of the Big 12 tournament on Sports Radio 810 WHB, brought to you by Barstool Sportsbook, Inside Hollywood Casino, Greenlight Dispensary, Jay Rieger and Company, CBD American Shaman, and Miller Lite. More Zone next.
Mick Shaffer in the Zone is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon, home of the 2-story biscuit sandwiches from Denver Biscuit Company all morning, New York-style hand-tossed pizza all afternoon and evening from Fat Soli's, and 20 beers on tap all the time. Experience it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Final hour on a Wednesday, hump day edition of the show. Speaking of that, Mick Shaffer joins us, KSHB 41 sports director. Hey, guy. Huh? How you doing?
Hump it away.
Yeah.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so the madness is beginning.
Oh, hold on. This is March.
Okay, there it is. 8 days and counting. The Bracket Challenge is also live. March is live, and the Bracket Challenge at 810WHB.com is live. You can go there, get signed up. So when the bracket is released on Sunday, you can go right there, boom, fill out your teams. And there are incredible prizes. We'll be giving away autographed Chiefs stuff and Sporting KC memorabilia, flat screen TV, restaurant gift cards, much more at the Bracket Challenge. And what's really cool is when you go to 810WHB.com and you sign up and you are a part of the Bracket Challenge, you can make your own group out of that Bracket Challenge to where you can run your office pool or your friends there at 810WHB.com, and whatever prizes that you guys use or money that you guys are going to use, whatever that might be. Plus, you're also eligible to win the prizes with Sports Radio 810. So we've got that going for you as well. 810WHB.com. Click on the Bracket Challenge icon. Get signed up. It's live right now. You can go ahead and work ahead with getting that registration done. It's brought to you by Twin Peaks, Robert Brogdon, Buick GMC, and Olathe Kia, Smoke and Fire, and Hy-Vee. So we got some college basketball coming up tonight with West Virginia and Texas Tech and Bedlam. Oklahoma State trying to play their way into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Mick, we had John Gasaway on earlier in the noon hour, and I love the line. He said the Big 12 is a bubble team's dream. The Big 12 tournament is a bubble team's dream.
Yeah.
And really, I kind of feel like there's only one, though, right? Like, I think West Virginia, even if they lose tonight, is still in the tournament because there's a lot of bad teams behind them. Whereas if Oklahoma State loses tonight, they're done. If they win,
they're done.
They may still need some work.
Yeah, usually, a lot of times if, K-State's not in this game, this can be an afterthought night because usually you have like maybe one team looking to play their way into the tournament. I think you have three. They're thinking like, okay, we still have a chance. West Virginia, I think, is in, like you said, even with the loss. I think if you're Oklahoma State, you need to win at least one and probably, just to be sure, beat Texas after that. And then, Texas Tech's like thinking, okay, let's get to Friday somehow and see what happens. So I think there's three teams that are like, we're still playing for something that not called the NIT.
So the Wednesday night game last year was Oklahoma State was not eligible. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah,
it was BS. We're all on the same page that they should have been eligible to play in the postseason. That was dumb. So there was only one game that night. It was number 8 versus number 9, Kansas State versus West Virginia, and that was a 6-12 in conference K-State team and a 4-14 in conference West Virginia team. That was the opening night. 2021, the opening night was number 8 seed TCU, 5-11 in conference, versus number 9 K-State, 4-14 in conference. Oklahoma, the 7 seed, 9-8 in conference, versus Iowa State, 0-18 in conference. Those are the last couple of years of the Big 12 tournament on the opening night. That ain't tonight, which is great. It's awesome.
It's funny throwing out like a 5-11. You forget, like, okay, there must have been a couple games banged for COVID, right? That year, right?
Well,
because
yeah.
There's 18 games usually. 0-18 and 5-11. They're
Yep. That's right. So that was because that was heading into the 21 season. So there were a couple of games there because TCU played 16. Iowa State, unfortunately for them, they played all 18. 0-18.
Yeah.
Kansas State was 4-14. And that was sort of the credit to, and Todd's talked about this a couple times. Sorry to cut you off, Mick, but Todd's talked about this a couple of times that, Bruce Weber and K-State probably could have missed some games and said, we just can't play. But they wanted to make a point that, no, we've got players. Let's go do it. We can make an excuse and not go there because we may lose because of this, but we're going to go play. So, didn't win them, but there's something to be said for that when TCU was 5-11. And sometimes it's out of their hands that the Big 12 may step in and just go, you guys aren't playing this game. But, yeah, you're right, a couple of those games. But those were quite different records for those teams. So.
Yeah, and I remember – what was it? 2020. This was the only nights that got played. It was K-State and Oklahoma State winning both those games, and then everything after that was canceled. And look, a 6-11 record this year in the Big 12 is a lot different than any other year. You can almost add 2 more wins to that. Well, I guess it'd be 6-12. 6-12 is a lot like could be more like a 9-9 at this point with the competition this year. So I think there's a lot of intrigue tonight. There's a lot to play for. I'm bringing my family to the game to look for the three sweep of 3-game sweep of Oklahoma. The Pokes dominate them in basketball. They've swept in 3 of the last 6 years. Make sure Lebo hears this. The other years they split with them, and I'm like, can we package up 2 or 8 of those wins just to get 1 football win? Can we trade those out?
No, I don't think that's possible.
It doesn't work that way.
Hey,
Brett Yormark, get on that. Then
look at it like right now. Those teams are 5-13 in conference play. Oklahoma and Texas Tech are both 5-13. In 2020, Iowa State was 5-13 in conference. They were 12-20 that year. As their overall record, not 500, which is essentially what these two teams are.
OU's 1 game under 500,
and
tonight they'll be above 500.
Tonight they'll be at 500. Oklahoma will. When we wake up tomorrow, Oklahoma will be 500, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Josh, he sent me a text a couple weeks ago, like, it's shaping up on Friday. It could be Mizzou and then KU and K-State, and then he listed their opponents. Yeah. And he had K-State playing Texas that night. I'm like, no, the K-State's going to be playing Oklahoma State.
Yeah, but the thing
didn't exactly nail it.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, the week before that is when I sent you that text, and then I followed that up when the bracket came out. I'm like, see, look, I told you, it's setting up exactly like I said. And then you wanted Oklahoma State.
You were like, I wasn't concerned with that part of the matchup.
I didn't know who was going to play on Wednesday night. I was just looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4 if the seeds played out. Another example in 2021. K-State was 4-14 in conference. They were 9-20 overall. So not the 5-13 and above 500 Texas Tech team that we're seeing right now. So we know there's some good teams that are there, and we'll see what happens tonight. And I have no idea what to expect from Texas Tech. I have no clue. They can either just fold up shop against West Virginia, or they can come together as a team and say, you know what, we're gonna go out there and play, because to hell with Mark Adams, and we're gonna go out and show what kind of team we are. And that guy, we've been waiting for him to be gone. I don't know. You never know teams that are going through things behind the scenes when a coach is essentially going to be fired. Like Mark Adams, once they get their lawyers together and everything and figure out the for cause to not have to pay him, you never know how teams are going to respond to that. So they might come out tonight and just play as hard as they can and beat West Virginia. West Virginia might win by 30. I think both are possibilities tonight.
No, I think so, and it's been that way all year long in the Big 12, just out of nowhere. Was it last week?
Iowa State, Baylor?
Last week it was Iowa State. Yeah, just
Iowa
on the
State,
road,
Baylor.
just spanking them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You think when you have a team figured out, you don't. And then Oklahoma State was the one. They were firmly in 2 weeks ago. And they could have, over a 5-game stretch, they could have gone 2-3, or heck, maybe even 1-4 and been fine. But they lost all 5 in a row. They finally, they saved themselves a little bit with the win on Saturday. But I think Lenardi, last I checked, has them as the very first team out. So winning is essential, and then maybe getting some help as well.
The bracket matrix has Oklahoma State as the second team out behind Wisconsin. So the final teams in, if you're for rooting purposes, according to bracket matrix, which has 89 brackets that they've used, the final teams in that are in Dayton. This is in reverse order from the last team in, so 68, 67.
And these would be the at-large play-in games,
at-large
right?
play-in games. That's right. That's right. Or I guess the 4 at-large play-in games, and then a couple others that are already in. So Penn State, Rutgers, Nevada, Mississippi State, Utah State, and Pittsburgh are the final teams in and at-large. And then the first team out is Wisconsin, and the next team is Oklahoma State. So that Big Ten tournament's, Wisconsin, Penn State, Rutgers. And if Oklahoma State wins tonight, you might have a pretty good idea of feeling a little bit better.
Sure.
Depending on what happens with that. Waking up tomorrow, I haven't even looked at the Big Ten bracket because why would I?
I'm on my way, actually.
Because why would I?
Yes. And I think for
Purdue's
Oklahoma State,
going to win.
Yeah. For Oklahoma State and any other team kind of in their position, I think going 3-0 is about the same as going 2-0. I think if you get to Friday, a lot of times those brackets are decided. And especially, I don't think we've talked about this. It really matters if you win or lose on Saturday, whether you're in the game. Everything's pretty much set. So I think 2 wins is good, right? That would be enough. Especially it'd be another. Heck, I don't know. They'd all be quad 1 wins, I guess. But I mean, you get one over what's probably going to be, I don't know, a 2 or 3 seed in Texas. If you get that, I think that's maybe enough cachet.
So here you
have
go.
Some other teams fall.
Central Time. Tonight, Wisconsin plays Ohio State at 5:30 Central Time on the Big Ten Network.
Go Buckeyes.
So you want some Buckeyes. Tomorrow.
Go OSU. Just cheer for OSU.
That's
Just
right.
cheer for OSU.
See, there you go.
Wow.
OSU, it's all about it.
Can Oregon State knock off some sort of Pac-12 bubble team?
Are they playing like Arizona State or something? Because I know Arizona State is fighting for their.
By the way, it was Sidney Ponson who I was thinking about.
Sidney Ponson. That's right.
Retired a Royal.
United.
That's right. He has been knighted.
I should have said former Royal. He was his last.
Holy bleep! Oregon State's playing Arizona State in the first round tonight.
There we go. Go OSU.
And by the way, Arizona State is right behind Oklahoma State in this whole thing. Tomorrow morning.
Maybe not.
Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., Rutgers and Michigan are playing each other in what is essentially going to be an elimination game because Rutgers is barely in the tournament, Michigan's barely out of the tournament, according to Bracket Matrix. So the winner of that one stays alive.
It doesn't matter either way.
Yeah, winner of that one stays alive. And then later on, 5:30 tomorrow night, Illinois and Penn State. So there you go. Those are the teams that are right around Oklahoma State. Win tonight and then see where the chips fall. You want Wisconsin to lose to Ohio State tonight. Michigan and Rutgers, you can't have a tie. You want one of those teams to win, certainly. They're going to play each other. Yes. And then Penn State lose to Illinois. And then make sure whoever wins between Michigan and Rutgers loses to Purdue tomorrow. That would be advantageous. So there you go. We've set it up for Oklahoma State and the Big 12 to get 8 teams in the tournament. To get 8 of them.
I think they're owed that, right? After the all the talk this season. Of course, they'll have to back it up. But I think 8 would be wouldn't be too much.
Dude, if K-State is playing on Saturday, if it's let's say it's Friday, it's KU, Baylor. Sorry about Oklahoma State, but KU, Baylor, Texas, Kansas State, and Kansas State wins that game. I mean, there's a possibility that you could have 3 2 seeds and a 1 out of the Big 12. That the top 8 teams in the seed line.
Just a few weeks ago, that was the projection. Just a couple weeks ago, that was the projection.
I mean, it's crazy. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll pay homage again to Lorenzo Cain and a couple highlights and fun stuff as he's retiring a Royal. Is Lorenzo Cain? More Zone next.
Mick Shaffer is brought to you by Atomic Cowboy Sports Saloon. As seen on Food Network, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and Man vs. Food, try it today at 42nd and Pennsylvania in Westport.
Hi, guys.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I just play a braggadocio badass on the radio. In real life, I am very humble.
If I ever host a career day.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Mick Shaffer hanging out with us. He is down at the McFadden studio as the Big 12 tournament getting underway tonight. Lorenzo Cain will be retiring a Royal, Mick. He will be retiring a Royal.
That's so cool of him, since he was like a Brewer twice.
Yeah, he bookended it with Brewers.
That's right. And they were talking about how they're going to come up with some sort of a ceremony. My idea is to sign him and ceremonial have him play center field all year.
Play.
Yeah. He'll be the ceremonial center fielder all year. There you go.
Listen,
I figured it out.
His sons aren't going to like that. They wanted Daddy at home,
I know.
so he's gonna do that. But absolutely, let him play a game.
We played this earlier. Just one of the greatest memories of Lorenzo Cain to set the scene. Bottom of the 8th, Game 6, 3-3. Hosmer up, nobody out. Lorenzo Cain at first. Let's hear the radio call against the Blue Jays, Game 6, ALCS. Here's the radio call, Dan Shulman, when Hosmer connects on a 2-2 pitch.
And the 2-2 and a swing and a ball hit to right field. Bautista to his left. It's going to drop. He'll play it on a bounce. Around to third, Cain getting the wave home. Throw to the plate. Not in time. The throw went into second. And Cain just kept going around third. And the Royals have the lead.
He airmails it, just a lob back to second. Hosmer, he thought he made a great play, kept Hosmer at first. Not the case. Here's the TV call, Joe Buck. This is a pretty good one, too.
That's into right field. This ball is down. Going to third is Cain. Holding at first. Now Cain coming to the plate. Royals lead. He can fly.
Mick, it was so loud in there you couldn't even hear the broadcast. With Joe Buck. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I remember where I was. I was in Stillwater, Oklahoma, because we were covering a KU Oklahoma State football game the next day. It was a Friday night. We were at a country bar. The staff with me from Metro Sports at the time, we were watching it, just going nuts in the country bar. We're the only ones paying attention to it, and it was awesome. I can't imagine being there.
So loud.
I was at some big games.
You
but
couldn't
I wasn't
hear
at that
Joe
one.
Buck, and he can fly. He certainly can. One of those about that I forgot, no outs. I mean, the risk with no outs, you'd have first and third. Mick, you're the man. Enjoy the game tonight. Bedlam!
Your exclusive